Okay, welcome everyone to the Keshe Plasma Reactor Group for Tuesday, June 20th, 2017. I'm here with Guy.
Hi guys.
And we have various people online such as Sandor and a couple of other people on the Zoom, as well as a few folks on the live stream as well, which we'll try to pay attention to as well. And Sandor, now you were talking a couple of minutes ago about an idea that had come up. Perhaps you'd like to describe that, or you had your video. Let me put your video on there to show that. Just a second. Okay, looks like we have a picture of an experiment in Gans's. Tell us all about it.
Yes, normally I don't hold these two near each other to not influence each other with the fields, but I put there now for showing them under the early morning sunshine. So yesterday afternoon I put together, let's say some about 15 hours ago, I put together two kits for making Gans out of Gans. And this was first one which I put together. And you see, it collects some interesting bubbles of something mainly under that tube, which is filled with half quantity of Gans compared to the other. For this construction, I used nano-coated, so it means hot caustic treated plastic container, this tiny bucket, about 1,200 milliliters. And I put inside, I filled with Gans water from the Gans which I use for washing these two Ganses, and I added to it salt up to 5% concentration. And I immersed into it two smaller bottles, each one containing washed Gans. These are not nano-coated because I want to let the fields go out. Only this outer one is nano-coated. I had a very well 8 or 10 times washed Gans inside with its water, and then I introduced this plasma capacitor, trying to show that separately. It's a plasma capacitor made of two pieces of copper, both nano-coated, and then I rolled on the central pin. I rolled some absorbent paper on which I brushed some mixture of three Ganses, oxides, such as carbon dioxide, zinc oxide, copper oxide. Then I put a layer of aluminum for keeping it inside, keeping the moisture inside, insulating a little bit for the moist. And I rolled another paper with CH3 Gans. And at the end I added some other piece of aluminum foil up to the thickness of the equal to the inner diameter of the coil, and I insert it in. Also the coil is impregnated in a soup of CH3 Gans and central pin into a mixture of oxide Ganses. So an advice which I learned from the beginning: if you make such a construction, measure your coils to the containers at the beginning, because as you see here, my coils became too short for the chosen containers. And it's not a good idea to stretch the ready-made nano-coated material, because we would ruin the nano-coating. If you remember what Mr. Keshe taught us on 3rd of January here, so you never do that. So,
Sandor just had an issue where I'm on the incorrect broadcasting channel. Okay, go ahead there, Sandor. We're on live stream now on the correct channel this time.
okay.
And I think everything's okay.
So, I repeat for those on live stream. So yesterday afternoon, I set up 2 boxes for making Gans out of Gans. One is with CH3 Gans, the other with CO2 Gans. You see the ratio of the Ganses is 1 to 2. So if we match 2 containers with Gans with ratio 1 to 2, it means the difference in between will be 1 unit equal to the field strength of the Gans itself. So you remember what Dr. Rodrigo told for the patches, 1 to 2, 1 to 3, depending on your purpose. So mass ratio counts. So now for this construction, I use the nano-coated plastic container. Actually, it's the container which I use to nano-coat these coils inside. So the container is also coated with hot caustic. It's the same method that make the coils. Just here it doesn't come black, but still the hot caustic soda had its effect on the inner side of the bottle. It's important to have it nano-coated because we want to keep the fields inside. I used 2 small bottles like those which you can buy at the airports or traveling related shops for putting your soap or your shampoo in a transparent miniature container for the security check at the airport. But you can use any kind of other kind of plastic containers. And I filled this outer container with Gans activated water. It means it's exactly the water which I used for washing out the salts of the Gans. It's well diluted, so for 100 milliliters of Gans I used 5 liters of water. So if it was originally 50 grams per 1 liter salt to water ratio, and for 100 grams I had 5 grams of salt diluted with 50,000 milliliters of water. So when you can see it's a small concentration, so I had to add the salt up to 5% concentration. And I put very well washed about 10 times or more washed Gans into the small bottles, and I connected them together with such a plasma capacitor, which is made of 2 pieces of wire, coil on one side and the components for assembling the capacitor in the middle. As you see it attached. Okay. For making the capacitor, I nano-coated the coil and the other part which contains the central pin. It was a very well done coating for several weeks. Then I use such kind of tissue paper. It's a hard one which is found into such cleaner for lens, or as you can find into screen wipes or computer wipes. So when this is dry, the alcohol goes off, and you see it's strong paper and it's a very well absorbent. Then I use the brush to apply different Ganses. So in the outer paper, which is outside toward the magnetic coil, I use the CH3 Gans, and for the inner part inside the capacitor I use a mixture of three gases, CO2, zinc oxide, and copper oxide. Basically, these are oxide gases. And I covered it with aluminum foil of this stronger kind, the barbecue grade aluminum foil, because I was lazy to put so many turns. But of course, you can use normal food grade one, but this is much thinner and you have to put more turns. When you make your capacitor, before to make it in a real way, just make a model to see how long pieces of paper and aluminum foil will fit perfectly without forcing it inside, because we don't want to damage the nano coating, and without to have a too big play there. So I set these two experimentally. It's first time when I'm doing such thing. It's for making Gans out of Gans. And you see what's very interesting in the first minute, as I put this bottle inside, there are two bottles, one with 2 times quantity by weight and the other with 1 time quantity by weight of CH3 Gans, and that with a smaller quantity immediately started to form such a big bubbles of gas at the bottom. So later some other style of smaller bubbles appeared all over the container, but I think the big ones are something interesting. So if you want to repeat such a experiment, I'd advise to design very well your coils according to the shape and size of your containers and bottles, to not have the surprise to see at the end that finally this coil which is supposed to reach the gas is too short. So it is not a good idea to pull it and stretch it once it is already nano-coated, because you can ruin the nano-coating in that way. It's better to make it from the beginning at the proper size. So maybe results would be different. Another thing... yeah.
Excuse me, Sandor. How did you decide which end of the plasma capacitor went into which container?
Good idea. So I decided based on the intended flow. So if this is bigger quantity, that is smaller quantity, so which is giving to which one? What would be the direction of giving? So obviously, the stronger gives to the weaker. So the flow shall be from here, to there, and to there, and then to connect through the water. So I use the gravitational here, because if this is giving, the capacitor is taking from it, and it's giving forward further to the other. So the taker part is towards this giver, and the giver part is toward the weaker on the other side. Taker being the gravitational, and the giver would be the magnetic, or how we call it. Okay, this other one is made with CO2 Gans, also in 5% salt solution. And the time being, cannot see too many things there inside. But let's see if I stir it up. You see? Can you see it's a gas forming there? Hooray! It's a slower process, but some gas is already forming. Maybe the camera doesn't.
We can see some milkiness there.
Maybe I have to take the camera in my hand, take it out of the tripod. Sorry for the noise, the microphone is in the camera. Let me try. Just I stirred it up. I don't know how the light will help. So anyway, some cloudiness at the bottom, which I stirred it up, it was seen. So now it will take time to go back to the bottom and try to stir it again in such a way to let you see it, and it's surely not from salt. So something started. And here At the other, you can see many big bubbles, big size bubbles here at the bottom. The camera should focus on the right spot. And I don't know yet what will happen with those bubbles. I suppose that may be something close to the hydrogen. You see no bubbles on the bottom of the big one, but big bubbles on the bottom of the small one.
Are they the same kind of container, like exactly the same each, or are
absolutely, absolutely same.
So the bottoms are both the same.
Yes.
Interesting. Is it the container on the right looks like the liquid is only part way up? Is that true, or is
yes, it? Yes, I would need the longer coils to reach to the right place.
Could you not put more of the plain plasma water on top of the
yes, but
existing?
It would change the mass ratio. So maybe the best thing would be to put some small glass beads or something like that at the bottom, and to rise the level of the Gans. So that method was used, for instance, for keeping oils which can go rinsed, and you needed to have your bottle always without air and always full, and of course you were using. So in the laboratory it was the method to put glass beads inside, but for the moment I don't have such a small glass beads to use. So
now, if you believe if you added say distilled water to that it would change the ratio of the mass of the
water
Ganses, but isn't it the mass of the Ganses that you're after, not the mass of the water plus Ganses?
It's the mass of everything, water.
Everything, yeah. Okay.
It's when you want to make a certain mass ratio, and if you say, if you have, let's say, a double core reactor, and you want a certain ratio, as Mr. Keshe explained on March 30th in Rome, in the 165th Knowledge Seekers Workshop. So you can match a certain quantity of oxygen to behave like carbon, or a certain quantity of carbon to behave like oxygen, if you put them in a correct mass ratio. So carbon is 12, so 4 parts of carbon, 4 times 12 makes 48, and oxygen 16, 3 times 16 makes also 48. So if you put carbon and oxygen to be in mass ratio 4 to 3, in that case you can make that match in terms of plasmatic field strength. That's very interesting. But if you want to make this, to realize it in practice, you have to know that the arbitrary thing is you don't know in a Gans in the water suspension how much is the Gans and how much is the water, unless you dry it. So with dry Gans and added water, it's fine, because the ratio of the water behaves in the same way. Water has also its field strength. By the way, you asked me about what I used. So this was the set, which was on a bargain price, such a $1 one set. This is for travelers, for tourists, for the airplane. And I found these PET bottles are just the right I need.
Yeah, I've used the same, similar myself. And the spray bottles are really good that you can get with those travel kits as well for spraying the CO2 Gans water.
Yes, yes. I have another set which contain that too. Now I prefer this one. I don't need so many spray bottles. But I got another small containers which are very good for keep concentrated Gans or amino acids, etc., etc. So nothing gets wasted.
Speaking of amino acids, is there anything at all forming on the surface of your experiments there?
Not yet. So as you know, amino acid will start forming when the conditions are changing by the presence of the newly formed Gans in a certain quantity. So now the next thing would be, of course, this is just the first experiment. It would be good to make more capacitors, to have more containers, to have more Gans, and to make such a differential experiment to put the same Gans into 3-4 containers, but with different salinity. You don't want to use sodium salt in order to use magnesium salt or potassium salt or whatever. Also to play with concentrations of the salt.
And this was, did you say it was 10%, this concentration? 5%. 5%, right? Which is roughly double what seawater would normally be, let's say.
Yes, it depends on the depth, because near the shores sometimes you have a sea or another with a small salinity, sometimes 2%, sometimes 3%. But if you go deeper, it can increase up to 15% in the very deep oceans. And still you can find life in all those regions and areas.
Yes, right.
But you can go even to less salt. You see what is the salt content of the blood, or what is the salt content of the plants, the water in the plants. They're not so salty. And yet
Well, they use what's called a saline solution in order to in hospital procedures and so on,
yes,
as blood replacement.
That has 9 parts of sodium salt to 2,000 parts, so 0.9%. It's sodium chloride, and maybe 1 to 32 is the ratio between the sodium salt and the potassium salt, and also there are some other salts there. You can find the various recipes if you check on the internet. Or such salt solutions, such a Ringier salt solution, for instance. And even for Ringier salt solution, I see recently the recipes are slightly showing variations between makers. I don't know from
what did you just say? Ringier?
I will send into chat, and maybe you can spell it for the public.
Ringier, R-I-N-G-I-E-R solution.
Yes, it's a German name, and I know English used to spell words in their way, and that's why if you have an Italian scientist and a British scientist who both speak Latin, they cannot understand each other in the same language unless it's written. I think it's originally pronounced Ringier.
And what was that about again?
That's the standard salt solution for those who are using blood.
Okay. Right.
And it has an interesting combination. By the way, you see that the ratio of sodium and potassium in the blood is very similar to ratio of sodium and potassium in the sea.
And also,
can you say that ratio again, please?
1 to 32.
Okay.
32 parts of sodium to 1 part of potassium, not the opposite.
Okay. Well, they say that there's one other substance that can substitute for blood. Maybe there's others, but coconut water can be used in emergency for blood plasma.
Yes, of course. Have you seen? It was a movie with Jackie Chan, like God's Armor or something like that, or it was maybe another movie where some hero used that for instant perfusion or infusion in the blood. So coconut juice can be used as it is. You don't need to sterilize, it's sterile inside. This is taught to soldiers.
Exactly, yeah. Interesting, eh? Hey, Sandor, do you think, it looks to me like the bubbles on the bottom of that electrode there are getting bigger. Is that true, or is it just, am I just noticing them more now?
Yes, they are bigger. Yeah, they keep growing slowly, slowly, slowly. So probably
You need to find a way to collect them, like it was mentioned one time, using a hypodermic needle and basically sucking each bubble and putting them into a hypodermic needle and turning it then upside down to make one big bubble that you could try to see if it exploded and so on.
yes,
Make sure you get it on camera.
that's one of the way to check whether it is hydrogen, but for the moment it was a big investment of work in terms of hours. So several hours and weeks to make the nano coating, then to make this quantity of Gans. It was again over 1 month's time, together with nano coating of the plate. So I have no liters. I have just milliliters of Gans. Otherwise, I would do it, of course. And the space is the biggest limit. So I'm in a...
Well, you don't want to disturb your experiment right now by trying to mess around with it too.
You see, I'm stockpiling boxes to fit into this place, and I have only such a few small tables here around me. So it's not an unlimited space. It's a 3 meters 40 by 3 meters 50, around 12 square meters only, and I'm sitting in the middle on a big desk.
Yeah, it looks like you're making good use of it all. Well, I find that really interesting, that you have the bubbles forming on the one electrode there, in spite of it being inside of the, inside of that bottle. It's great. I like it.
And please notice, into the Gans is no salt water. It's just
right. That's a really big thing too. Yes.
So the little containers has fresh water, and the main container has salt water.
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
Exactly.
That's a good detail there.
Yeah,
fresh water means distilled water.
Yeah, now normally that electrode, that coil electrode that's in the say the right hand bottle, it shouldn't be technically it should be insulating and not conducting down into the Gans or really conducting to the bottle itself so much, because that water, that distilled water there, will be almost a perfect insulator. It won't conduct like the salt water will between the two bottles, but not inside the bottles themselves. So, but yet we have some sort of action going on, one way or another.
So yet we have plasmatic connections with the nanolayers. Of course, I believe it would be more effective if I would have made the coils a bit longer. I made them a very late evening. I was a bit tired and in a hurry, so let's do them and start it. Otherwise, I will never finish. So when I have a small gap in other works, then I'm doing such experiments. If I would have been making only experiments, in that case, the progress would be much different. But anyway,
and you don't want to extend the coil because of you're afraid, or not afraid, but you would suspect that the nano coating layers may flake off or otherwise be damaged.
Yes,
or is it because of that the coil wrap should be a certain distance apart and not overextended for plasmatic reasons or whatever? Could you explain?
It can be a wire, it's no problem for the shape of the coil, but remember this year's first not Knowledge Seekers workshop, but Keshe Plasma Reactor Group workshop, when at 2 hours and 41 minutes, suddenly Mr. Keshe appeared and he told us very important details about how to handle properly nano coating, nanomaterials. You don't touch it, you don't push into it with your fingers. They are
and just by extending the wire, even if you were just pulling it at each end, it would still, the copper in a different shape like that would tend to stress the layers and kind of mix them up and to cause problems there, I guess, is the idea.
Definitely, and think about, you have to apply a certain pressure in order to pull it with enough force.
Yeah.
If I may just say something, is there not some form of self-healing though going on too?
That's just kind of that thought occurred in my mind too.
Self-healing, so that eventually the coating would self-heal if you give it enough time.
Or if you took it out and gave, extended it, and then maybe a light spray of some coal caustic or something like that.
Definitely. That would certainly,
definitely it would need to be not in water but on air, and you need to add some caustic for the self-healing to occur. So when you wash off the caustic, the process of growing more layers stops.
Yes, right, and you'd have to put it like in a baggie or something and sort of reform those layers or whatever to heal it.
I have one more.
I guess that could be done.
I have one more capacitor. One more capacitor here, which I can put, for instance, instead of such bottles, into small Ziploc bags. Just I have to find such a small size Ziploc bags and to use into that. And in that case, I can adjust also the level of the gas to be from the top to the bottom just by squeezing slightly the bag.
And do you think that the coils should be right down in the Gans itself? What do you think about that?
Maybe it would be beneficial for a better contact, much better than through the water.
You would think so, I guess, but maybe it needs that insulating factor in between as kind of a dielectric.
Sometimes accidents bring about new results.
Yes, right. You got bubbles on one and not the other. That is a definite result that's interesting.
Yes, and that started from the first seconds. In the first minute, already the bubbles appeared.
Really? Wow.
Yes.
Now it'd be interesting to see what that thing is. What kind of gas is it? It is.
Yeah.
What would your explanation into this? Like some sort of exchange of from the water from within some sort of transferred through the plasma, through the plastic, I mean, of the bottle? Or some gases pushed through?
We can guess in hundreds of ways.
Yeah, I guess so.
I prefer to observe than thinking of what happened.
Yeah, right. Well,
we'll see later, and maybe next week some of you will show me another way or a better way.
There was talk about when, I forget who mentioned it to me about, or sent a message about collecting bubbles like that with a syringe, a small syringe, and when you have enough in the syringe, then you actually hold the lighter close to, you take the needle off the syringe, first of all, very important.
Yes.
And hold the lighter close to the hole where the needle was. And if it's hydrogen, it'll kind of go poof and maybe blow the syringe open a little bit with sort of a orangey yellow kind of flame. And if it's hydrogen and oxygen, which should be like water splitting on the same electrode, then it would be much more of a pop and much more potent. And perhaps a short blue flame, and it might even blow the syringe apart. So it's recommended you use some heavier clothes and eye protection for that little experiment.
Yes, I agree. But what would be the effect if it would be deuterium?
Well, that's an interesting question, because with double the mass, you get double the power out of it, or maybe 2 times to quadruple or something like that, or maybe to more of a to the thousandths or 10,000ths power or something like that. But in any case, just thinking of it as double what you would get at least with a plane just by mass alone. What do you think? I don't know.
So theoretically, it sounds very interesting, and practically diving under the water with a small syringe in such a small bucket, it would be not very easy.
Well, maybe you need a U-shaped syringe, and it would be, yeah, it's a delicate operation. You'd have to set up the experiment so that it would automatically collect easier, perhaps.
You can raise the bottle.
So actually, you would need to dive into, at least with your hand, and the level of the waters will change, and you would need a huge container of 20 liters for that, and so on. By the way, let me show other details. So I improvised how to fix the bottles, because they start floating if you don't fix them. And you want to keep them in shape. So I punched 2 holes here, and I use such a zip tie. Such a ziplock or zip tie, how to call that.
I was wondering about that, because I saw the water level below the level of the water inside the container, and wondering that bottle should be floating.
Yes, of course. It's actually
That's why I was thinking you should put more liquid inside, but you can't, because the other bottle is pretty much topped up now, I guess.
This is a small technical trick which I used.
Yeah.
I punched 2 holes. I made them enough big to fit a zip tie inside, and I just zip tied them. And on the other, I just cut a chopstick, just a normal wooden chopstick from takeaway restaurants, from Chinese restaurants or Japanese restaurants, or Korean or whatever. And I cut it to a size to fit into the space between the walls, upper side of the containers pretty tightly. But this is not very stable, so maybe a bigger piece of wood or something else would be better, because I didn't want to punch holes into this nice box.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. What if you just had a higher level in both containers, like is in the same proportions that they are now, but have one that's filled right to the top, and the other one, whatever it end up being, maybe halfway or 3/4 or whatever it ends up, the ratio.
Anyway, seeing how I made it, you can learn not to copy it, but to improve it, to make it in a better way, because you see the problems here.
It looks like that coil on the left is actually into the Gans a little bit there. Is that correct?
Yes, but not too much, unfortunately.
Yeah.
It should reach into the Gans. So make your coils according to the size of the bottles, or use Ziploc bags.
Mm-hmm.
And those are even better because they have a much thinner wall.
Any bubbles on those ones, Sandor?
Not really. Not really, but what I observed, that after a night, there is something on the bottom. There is something. I try to stir it up. I see it with naked eyes, but I don't know if camera can see that. I'm chasing now the floating thing inside. Unfortunately, the camera focuses on the walls and not inside. And since the latest Windows updates, I don't have the controls on the focus so easily. I have to stop. I stop my video here. I start another program, and I share the screen of the other program, which is for the camera. You find the Microsoft Live Cinema. This is, I hope. I'm trying to make it in such a way to be possible to adjust the focus manually. Settings of the camera. Share the screen and let
Okay, we got some dead air time on the video here, but that's okay. There we go. Thank you, Sandor.
And I want to go focus instead of autofocus to make a manual.
Your sound has died off there, Sandor. We can't hear you right now. Oh, we can barely hear you. I think it's at your end.
Let's try. Can you hear me now?
No, it sounds like it's like on the wrong microphone or something.
How about now?
Oh, that's better.
So whenever I switch off and on this camera software, always the volume falls back to 75% instead of 100%.
It's a feature, not a bug.
Yeah. So I'm trying to focus to see something inside. Let me. I have to cross my hands here. I'm not so good with my left for changing the focus. No, you cannot see it. But I'm steering it, but
Yeah, we can see a few particles kind of shooting by. It's difficult though.
once I steer them up, they don't fall back.
Yeah, I can see that one.
You see it?
Yeah. Yeah.
Now you see it rising. It's a small quantity, barely visible.
And sorry, how long has this been now? How many hours or days? Or it's been a day or half a day?
About 16 hours.
Right. Okay.
Or less. So it will need some more time. I put back the autofocus, and it focuses immediately to what is more visible and not to the left.
You have a good clear picture today though. Thank you for that.
You're welcome. Let's switch back to the zoom, video by zoom. Okay. Okay, so
does anyone have any questions for Sandor before we continue here? Jay had a comment. What about floating bottles?
yes, it's
Maybe
very
you could-
interesting. You need a dead weight on the bottom, like you have a ballast, like you have on the boats.
What if you put the bottles sideways and allowed them to sit like boats on the water?
Yes, you will need a ballast. If
Right.
they lives in an
How
island,
about can't the coil be the ballast?
the coil is on the top. It's not the ballast, unfortunately. So you need a weight as a ballast on the bottom. So Jay lives on an island, so he should know that boats which are on the sea all have a ballast. They have no flat bottom. They have a ballast which keeps it straight in the wind and the waves.
Okay, but still, couldn't, I mean, if you look at that coil in the Gans there now, and you turn that whole assembly sideways and allow it to be floating on the water, could not the coil itself be the ballast inside that?
Yes, idea is good.
Bottle.
Practically, if I would let it float, instantly it will pick some water. It will swallow some water from the salt water, which I don't want.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. You'd have to seal the opening or something, perhaps.
Thank you for the idea. That would be another way how to fix them. Just, for that, again, I had to stretch the coil because they are bent in a certain angle. So it doesn't solve the original problem, but it rises up.
Right. Well, we can see people springboarding off this information pretty easily and trying their own setups to get this elusive special GANs, the GANs, sort of the GANs of the GANs, you might say.
So we learned to make GANs by using the fields of nano-coated metal plates. Now the next step is to use the fields of the GANs, which are much stronger. Now I'm waiting for a shipment to arrive. I found only Chinese supplier for pure nickel plate. And the next idea is to make the GANs in such a way that the nano-coated plates to be outside of the containers and to use both plates to be nano-coated. So again, connect together by twisted wires or by plasma capacitor or the LED, does not matter. And in this case, the plates will stay dry, but I have to match, in order to make a CO2 GANs into the salt water, I have to create a magnet for carbon. So I need a field strength of difference of 6. And for that, I found two metals, zinc and nickel, would be suitable, both nano-coated. Because if you have a metal plate which is just a bare plate, its fields go very close to it. They don't expand too much into the space. But if you have a plate which is nano-coated, then that nano-coating makes the magic, and it makes it extend the fields on a big area, on a long distance. So I need fields to penetrate deep into the salt water. So I have to nano-coat both to be nano-coated. So if you compare, maybe I can open a picture somewhere. A second, let me browse for it. Let's see, documents. I have a special folder for these materials. Second.
Hello?
Yes, I'm here. Just I'm searching.
Sorry, I just thought your volume died down there.
I found it. And I'm... Okay, so let me share this one. I have to close the annotation tool. First of all, and to click on New Share. And again to annotate. So here you can see the stable isotopes of nickel and stable isotopes of zinc. So you see, when you have a piece of metal, often you have, or in most of cases, you have not a pure metal of the same quality, but you have alloys, and you have an alloy of isotopes. So you see, you find zinc 64, zinc 66, zinc 67, 68, and 70. And about 48% of the zinc which you buy from the shop is zinc 64. And 27% is zinc 66. But also there is zinc 68 in 18% in volume. And meanwhile, you see on the periodic table of elements, the mass number of zinc is called 65. And you find no natural stable isotope of zinc which would be 55. This 55 is a mathematical average. It's a weighted average of the isotopes, of the mass of the isotopes. Don't forget this when you work in nanotechnology. So now, in case of nickel, nickel 58 is 68%, 26%, very similar to 27% of the zinc 66 is nickel 60. Then you have nickel 61 and 62 and 64. Same like copper, it's not a 64, but it is a isotope of a mixture of isotope number 63 and 65. And 64, which is in the periodic table of elements, is just the average number. No isotope has that ratio. And you see, there are different ratios of them, and they are pretty similar in between. So most of the lightest isotope, a little less of the second lightest isotope, much less of the third, a little more of the fourth, and very little of the fifth. And now if you see the difference between 58 and 64, how much is? Now 60 and 66, it's again 6. 61 and 67, it's again 6. 62 and 68, it's again 6. And 64 and 70, it's again 6. So most of the field strengths of the difference of the field strengths of these two metals, you will have a difference of 6. Of course, there are the differences as well, because you will have a difference between 60 to 64, which is 4. So you have the main will be 6. It will be present to some degree also field strength of 4, a field strength of 3, a field strength of 2. So these will be present too. But the main will be 6. So I hope by using these two metals nano-coated, I will be able to place them outside of the container and yet to create here a field of 59 and 65, and which to have difference of 6, which would be that one which would attract the carbon, which has 6 protons. So I hope another way of making a cleaner CO2 without metals or metal salts or metal oxides dissolved into. When we are making carbon dioxide gas, we are also making zinc oxide in a big ratio. Also, some part of the copper gets dissolved in the water. If you put non-coated plate and nano-coated plate outside, the fields of the non-coated don't go well into the box. So those who tried with a zinc plate inside the salt water and with the nano-copper plate outside, maybe they succeeded to produce some CO2 gas which is free of copper but is not free of zinc. If you put those outside, maybe the process starts, maybe not. Maybe the fields are not enough strong. But if we have both metals nano-coated, so one of nickel, one of zinc, I hope that the fields will penetrate well inside, and we will be able to make a cleaner CO2 gas. That was my point. So I speak forward, so maybe somebody will be faster than me and will do it faster and you show it to us. So with so many knowledge seekers, I think we are the biggest open research laboratory in the world.
Yeah, I bet there's people working on this as we speak, and there's even a chance someone will show it by the end of the show here or something, you know. I'm expecting to see a bubble go popping off the bottom there. There's a couple of them that are just barely hanging on, waiting for some action there. And it's amazing. The other bottle still has nothing. It's almost like the other one is absorbing the bubbles on the bottom of it.
Yes, some very small bubbles appeared here on every surfaces, so, but they are something different.
Yeah. The other ones are definitely created. They're not just the small bubbles. Interesting. Any other questions for Sandor about that so far? So Jay says it would be difficult to backward engineer if Sandor's craft ever crash landed on an alien world. The Gans of a Gans of a Gans. Soon the Keshe Foundation might make some real cool metal or new matter state product, like some mad plastic.
Sentences for a satire or for a parody. Who wants to backward engineer my work? I have the knowledge openly given to everyone. It's no need to back engineer. And it's not about Gans of Gans of Gans of Gans, Jay. It's about we are learning now after we learn to use nanomaterials, to use the fields of the Gans, of the gas as a nanosolid. It's a step forward for those who will be able later to use the fields directly without the need for Gans in order to work with fields. It's just one step in the learning.
Okay, is there something more about that you'd like to add, Sandor? Or again, I ask if anybody would like to, anyone has a question about that or would like to add to it.
So if there are no questions, there are two choices. Either nobody is interested, or I explained enough clearly for everybody to understand, so they don't need to ask further.
Well, I certainly enjoyed your explanation, and David in the chat says, wow. That's a pretty good indicator.
Good. Thank you.
And someone says great in the live stream chat as well. So we have wow and great so far.
Good.
So I think you got them bamboozled there, and something to think about. This is the first really nice, clear explanation and demonstration that I've seen of the method of creating GANs using the GANs electrodes and so on, and the plasma capacitor. Now, I was going to ask you, did you do any electrical tests with your plasma capacitor? Does it function also as a battery as well as a capacitor?
A couple of millivolts, 1-2 millivolts, not more.
Oh, I see. Okay.
It's not a salt battery. Purposely, I put no salt and no caustic inside.
Right. I know you were quite clear that you do multiple washes, like these you're talking about 8 or 10 times. I think it was washed, right? And that's quite extreme compared to most people. So you can be sure that it's got very, very little or no salt content that way. And that would change it quite a bit. So that's good. It acts as a actual capacitor then.
Yeah, about washing the GANs. So many people go on anecdotal or folklore-based description. So wash it 3 times, wash it 5 times, and so on. And it matters whether you have a 20% salt solution or a 2% salt solution. It's not the same case. You wash it with 2 times water or 20 times water. It's again not the same case. So I started to make a calculation. The unit which I use for concentration here is parts per million. Abbreviated, it's a ppm. It's a ppm, it means 1 part per million. So if I started with a 5% solution, that means 50,000 ppm. So this is...
Or I see also you have milligrams per liter, which is a nice way to look at it as well. I hadn't considered that, but
yeah,
like grams per liter. Grams per liter would be like 1 out of 1,000, but milligrams would be one 1,000th of that, which would be like parts per million, right?
Yeah, it's equivalent. Milligram per liter or ppm is the same thing in 2 different names. So we understand better milligram per liter because we used to use milligrams, we used to use liters, and not many people know what ppm means. And often people who talk of ppm, some of them don't even remember what the abbreviation means. It's parts per million. So I made calculation for the solution which I use usually. It's about 5% salinity. So 50 grams of water per liter, or 5 grams per 100 milliliters, or 50,000 milligrams per liter. So this is 50,000 ppm. And I made calculation for different dilution times. So what happens if I dilute it 2 times, or 3 times, or 4 times, or 9 times? Then I remove the water, which I added as an extra, and I add a new water. So to let me understand what I mean, you have a bottle. Let's say it's a 1 liter bottle. And you have here, let's say, 100 milliliters of water with Gans. So this is water with Gans. So now you can double the quantity. So this is 1 unit. So you add another similar volume unit of clean water. So this is a salt water plus Gans. For simplicity, we consider that the Gans doesn't occupy space, but it occupies. But just for safety and for simplicity. And you have 100 milliliters of salt water and 100 milliliters of Gans, and you add another 100 milliliters of clean water, pure water. Oh, sorry.
Now I noticed you didn't say distilled water necessarily. You know, is there a reason behind that?
Distilled, demineralized, or distilled water. I named that pure or clean or distilled water, of course. So this means if you added the same quantity, it's a dilution by 2 times. You shake it well, you let the Gans go to the bottom, and now if you had those 5 grams of salt per 100 milliliters, now you have the 5 grams per 200 milliliters. So the concentration goes down from 5%, it goes down to 2.5% only. Then you remove half of that quantity. So this you remove it later, and you replace it with fresh water. So then again, from 2.5%, it will become 1.25%. Or for 25,000 ppm, it will go to 12,500 ppm. And so it goes on. So this is the case when I wash it by doubling the quantity of water and then halving it back. In this case, this is the number of how many times you repeat that. 1 time, 2 times, 3 times, and so on. And up to 16 times if you do that, you use 16 times 100 milliliters of water, which means you used 1.5 or 1.6 liters of water for the whole cleaning process, and you reach below 1 ppm concentration, which is considered very pure water. Can you follow that?
Well, it's interesting when you get to that point, then, if you had, for example, a liter of water, you would either have one particle in it or no particles in it, essentially, at that point.
Yes, something like that. So practically 1 ppm, it's acceptable as pure distilled water according to all the standards.
Yeah, that'd only be one particle. You're talking about one salt particle in the whole liter.
When you reach to have in 1 liter only one particle, and you have that, now the question is where that one particle goes, into which side, which you throw it away or which you leave it inside. It's it's a factor of unknown.
And be even worse than the needle in a haystack problem, trying to find that one particle, I'm sure.
Anyway, we are not perfectionists. We want to obtain good, acceptable results instead of perfect results which never can be accomplished.
Yeah, well, I thought it was just interesting that there is this finite point where, in theory at least, if everything was, exact along the way and equalized and so on, that you would end up with theoretically less than one particle at the end of this 16-point procedure. So that's quite interesting, actually. I like that. Thank you.
Yeah, all possible. Now, what happens if you add more water? Instead of adding 100 milliliters, you add a double one, so you make a 3 times dilution. So here you see the figures in the second row. So now what happens if you have, let's say, you have a bottle, this is close to your real life, you have about 200 milliliters of Gans, Gans plus water, plus salt. So that's more near to our daily experience. And in that 1 liter of water, still you can add 3 times more. So this is 200 milliliters. Sorry, I have to stop this, I'm already up. This is an alarm for the normal days, not for today. And if you add here, I lost my annotation tool, and you add here 600 milliliters of clean water. So you dilute it 4 times. So finally you have 4 times, and still you have 200 milliliters free to shake the bottle well after you put the cap. So this is the method I used. And here you see with the 8th wash, you already reached to that concentration or dilution of 0.8 ppm, so which is less than 1 ppm, which is a very good result. And the disadvantage is that you use 2.4 liters of water for that, for 100 milliliters of Gans. Or in case you have 200 milliliters, it's just double, I used about 5 liters of water. So I used the canister of 5 liters of water for cleaning this all. So I used up 5 liters for getting 200 milliliters of saltless Gans. So this is the ratio. This is the disadvantage. You use much more water. But the advantage is that you do this in 8 steps. So you make it in half time. So you can consider what is more precious, your time or your cost of distilled water. So you can choose which method to use. Of course, you can dilute it 40 times and to do just 3 rinsing operations. In that case, you need only 3 operations, but you use a huge quantity of water for that. So I hope this information gives you an idea. And instead of 50,000 ppm or 5% salt solution, you can make your own calculation according to this method for whatever concentration used. Maybe some people use 10% or 15% salt, or maybe 2% salt. So you need a different number of washing and a different quantity of the water for washing it. But if you design it in a simple way and you have no measuring instrument like a TDS meter, total dissolved solids meter, in that case, you can get a good expected result just by calculation and following the conclusions from the calculation. Otherwise, you can use a TDS meter and to show, to look when it goes down to a TDS below 1. It's so sensitive. But usually, TDS, which is measured in ppm, you reach about 2. You are usually satisfied. That's the quality of distilled water. But you can go one step further for making it much cleaner. Other ways to taste it, but at such a low concentration, trust me, you will feel no difference in taste. So maybe it goes to a certain number. And why you cannot feel the difference? Because your saliva in your mouth already contains some salt. So with the dilution, it's very, very small. You have to have a very perfect taste to measure it exactly. So I'd advise that the easiest method is just to calculate which quantity of salt you had in which volume of water, how much water you added per total, and how many operations you divided that salt. So it's easy to calculate where to reach. Of course, if you are not afraid of calculation. Next, I don't like to calculate, so that's why I prefer to use Excel, where I can input such formulas. So if I can make a formula, then it's very easy to make the calculation automatically.
Yeah, it's almost like a spreadsheet that should be made available as part of for people's experiments and so on. It's nice.
Yeah.
I know
we don't
also.
want to teach to use a certain tool, but we want to teach or inspire to use your mind and to find a tool for your purpose.
Well, this has really been inspiring to me, actually, to see those numbers. I hadn't realized that it would be possible to get down to that concentration so quickly with certain techniques and so on. It's quite enlightening. Thank you.
Yeah.
And also, I note that those concentrations would be true too. That if you had, say, a contaminant in your original solution, something that was dissolved in the water, maybe some, I don't know what would be an example, some iron or something that you didn't want in the water, that it would be diluted in the same way that the salt would be, half each time or more, depending on your technique of how much water you use. But basically, it's almost pure distilled water at the end of it. So you'll have less than 1 ppm, and there's some substances, for example, that you wouldn't want in the tens or hundreds of ppms if it was really toxic. So by doing this technique, we would get rid of anything virtually into the billions of ppm quite easily.
Yeah, and there is a fallacy of all this cleaning process, because theoretically it looks like I have shown it to you. Practically, you go down to the purity of the initial cleaning water which used for purifying. If your distilled water is not a distilled water, it's not pure, it contains impurities, you cannot go below that.
And even the distilled water like that you would buy in the store or whatever for your iron normally is not really that pure. That's why the labs have what they call double distilled water or even triple distilled water.
Yeah, I want to show something. So anyway, I'm very satisfied with the quality of this water, but it's showing with big letters, with huge letters, distilled water in Hungarian language. And actually, it is a distilled water quality, multiple time deionized water. So you see the trick?
multiple time deionized water?
Yes, and of distilled water quality, but this distilled water, it's with huge letters. It pops up when you see it on the shelf. Wow, this is better because it's distilled, but it's deionized. So best is if you have for the last washing your own distilled water in the conditions which you could control. And always test. You see, I've heard reports from one of the European groups, I don't say now which country, I don't want to make bad promotion for anyone, that somebody used to buy so-called purified water or demineralized water or distilled water from a certain fuel station. And when he measured it with a TDS meter, it was a TDS above 400, and his tap water had a TDS 350 only. Actually, it was not as pure as his not so pure tap water. This can happen.
Right.
Don't trust whatever is written on the label. Trust if you know the quality management system of the manufacturer. And of course, you cannot be sure that the shop owner just sold it what he got, or he just used for maintaining the batteries into the back service, and he just refilled with seafood tap water for other customers. You don't know that. You know, in India, for instance, if you ever travel in India, there is a law. After you empty your personal bottle of soft drink or bottled water, you are obliged by law to squeeze the bottle to destroy it, to deform it before you throw it out to the rubbish. Because there are some people who are collecting used bottles from the rubbish and they fill it with a colored liquid and they sell it to the tourists who are traveling by train as a soft drink, and in fact, or as a water, and in fact it's made from infected water and you get cholera or whatever. So that's why the government made law. If you throw out an empty bottle made of plastic, you have to squeeze that to destroy it, to avoid such a repurposing.
Okay, thank you for that little factoid.
Many things happen in this world. It's a topsy-turvy world. Who can understand why some knowledge which was given to man is not used for its purpose, but it's used, instead of uniting people, it's used to divide people. And many crazy things. You say the religion of universal love, and you see people having that on the flag, killing each other since millennia, since centuries. That's the crazy thing. What should we change this word to something better?
Well, like Guy and I were discussing that word, that four-letter word, love, before the workshop here. And in terms of, for example, if we were to look at the, well, why don't we? That's one of the Keshe Foundation videos, the animation video, probably the plasma animation. I think you know which one I'm talking about, Sandor. Let me put it on the screen here.
Yes, please.
And we'll just discuss it a little bit. Okay, so
some 5 hours ago, last night, I had questions from a gentleman who wishes to make a 3D animation of the plasma. He put some questions on understanding, and I recommended him to join this meeting. I don't know if he can come or not. Maybe he fall asleep tonight.
Well, he could definitely sign up with Human Resources and be interviewed and become part of the plasma, or just the animation team, actually, and with the Keshe Foundation, or or work with that team with someone else, that would be terrific, because we do need that kind of thing. Let me just share my screen here. Okay, so yeah, now this is the basic plasma animation that we sort of came up with a couple of years ago now, I guess. And it starts out like this. The beginning is magnetic rays. Okay, so I was talking to Guy about this, that something that occurred to me, and like Guy's often talked about love as being core of his belief system, and it's the core of the Christian religion, it's the core of the Islam religion in a way, that peace, tolerance, love, and so on, these different aspects of God, or of the sacred sort of parts of ourselves. And so we're looking at these magnetic rays, and I'm thinking, well, okay, what about magnetic rays? I mean, we see them as lit up as these orangey objects on the screen, but in actuality, they may be not visible to our human eyes. It's just they're magnetic rays, not necessarily visible rays, let's say. But in any case, let's say they happen to be traveling through space, because that's what the original magnetic rays, before anything is created, would be doing, I suppose. And as it continues, we focus on one of the rays here that's kind of shooting more further ahead, and then it tends to bend a bit, or at least we see another magnetic ray, and then for some reason we have interaction.
But you see that little curve, though, eh?
Yeah.
That little there was a little swerve.
That's
before,
right.
One way before swerving back inward.
That's a good point. Let's back up. Sorry, someone's microphone's open.
Yes.
That's okay.
Sorry. I'd like to add a little thing here, that it's about magnetic rays which are independent of the source, and those magnetic rays which are of equal or near strength, those will go into this interaction. So I have to
exactly
near strength, near or equal strength. So this is the important
yes
part.
Yeah, it is important. So let's just back up a little bit here, right to there. Okay, so everything was just fine for each of these rays. They're going about their own business on their own trajectory or path or positioning, let's say. And exactly as you said, Guy, is all of a sudden one of these rays, it's almost like it oh, my mouse is sticking here for some reason. There we go. One of these rays starts to bend right there. You can see that top one starting to bend. Boom. And the other one too starting to bend. So this is the critical point. This is what the point I want to bring in here. This is what you could call a love interaction. If you look at love as a broad spectrum word, and that is in the deeper meaning of that everything in the universe is connected or stuck together with love, let's say. So let's just use it as a mind exercise here. So somehow there's this, let's say, love, or put it another way, an attractive interaction is going on here. It's not repelling. You don't see them going against each other. You see them there. One of them's got the eye, the other one, you might say, and there's a little bit of love.
Love at first sight.
Love at first sight. That's it. They saw each other, and it's like, oh, and other, and then attracted to, because somehow love is part of the basic forces of the universe. This is what I'm trying to present here.
When you say you love somebody, when you want him to be very far, or when you want him to be very near.
Yes, exactly. So they get like real near, like, whoa, this guy's pulling a 180 here, right in the middle of the space highway to be close to, well, I'm saying this guy, but you know, it could be a girl, it could be neither guy nor girl. We're just talking about forces here. Let's get real. But, you know, so you might say that like and unlike charges or like charges coming together in a different way or different spirals. But in any case, they become entwined. There's interaction. There's definitely attraction happening here. And this is the point that we have with love. We know about that. And then these two entities seem to become more focused in a common center. We see them still as more or less separate entities here. You can see two definite rings, but now they are in rings. They're in toroids, which are much more powerful than a ray. A toroid is like a collector and amplifier of energy rather than just a ray. And it's rotating at the same time. So now all of a sudden, boom, we have ignition. Houston, we have ignition. And we have plasma, all right? So that is like the fusion or the actual fusion through this love force, this gravitational pulling together force, which these magnetical rays, they were all just strictly magnetical before. Now they're magnetical, but they have the gravitational that's fused them together into this plasma. So, and then from the plasma now creates its own fields that are far more powerful and than the rays were on their individual, on their individual journeys. This is more of a self-contained, positively positioned entity rather than, and it's both giving and receiving at the same time, where the rays were not really doing that. They were just rays, magnetic rays, right? So now we have, like it says, we have external magnetic fields that are generated from this core unit of the fusion of the rays that was all created by love, or not created by love, but love is that condition between these two lonely rays out in space, you might say. So once that's fused and creating, then we go along and we see that just continues to be more of a self-generating field system with that can reach out and interact with others in a different way. Anyway, I thought that was interesting to look at it that way. And if we look at ourselves that way, and if we look at, especially look at science that way, and what is the missing part in science? Well, they've investigated all these different forces of the universe, the nuclear force and the weak force, and there's electrostatic forces, and there's forces in physics, and there's gravitational force, and all these kinds of forces and so on. But have they ever measured the love force? Have they ever measured that the one force that sticks everything together in the universe? Maybe we've given it different names on different levels, and nano level and atomic level and so on. Maybe it's, that glue that holds the protons and neutrons together in an atom. I mean, you could call that love in a way, I suppose, and so on. But I'm proposing since it is love, I'm proposing that the love is an essential force, I guess you call it. But there's a saying that love is not a force, it's a feeling. And a feeling is not necessarily a force, but at the same time, you're feeling a field. So you could say the love is a field more than a force, perhaps. Because the two things that see each other, are they forced due to love, or is it love just it's not the force really, but more the process that occurs.
I got that that view that feelings affect reality.
Mm-hmm.
And when you say it affect, so something must be externally pushed to affect something.
Right, and I say that that idea of feeling is different than the idea of more superficial emotions or other reactions
but
you might have.
You know, when you were looking at
realm.
the diagram there, at the beginning, there were only those two little line forces that became a nice balls of plasma further on. That became a ball of plasma that ignited a bigger field. And the way I see it, actually, when you were talking, was that it's almost like a community or a family, or you're enhancing. You see, this is, you're enhancing. It's almost like life, you know. I was thinking about the moment of conception. Recently, I read an article where they said that when the sperm actually, at the moment that it actually penetrates the egg, there's a flash of light that happens. And in biology, the brightest flash of light is the most fertile eggs. So they pick them up out of all the other ones that are not so fertile. So, but there is a phenomenon of flash of light at the moment of birth.
I've heard also the flash of light is due to gamma rays coming in. So you have to wait. There's always gamma rays coming in. They penetrate everything on the Earth, except they only go into the Earth a few meters or something. So they're always coming in. And at a certain point, at the moment of conception of that sperm penetrating the egg you're talking about, being this, it's like a lightning bolt to them on the micro level and so on. This gamma ray comes through, and if you're there, it's like, whoa, I see the light, bing, it's all comes together and brings that, it creates the DNA, or it creates
sparks the process.
Maybe that's what it is. It's not a big lightning bolt, but actually a tiny little gamma ray.
I was looking at those two forces, like male, female. You can see at positive, negative. Maybe there's a coherence there, saying that these two forces gather together and do some sort of a dance, and when they cohere, there's a bigger field that can be created. Yeah,
definitely. I mean, that's it seems to be all in this video, and that's
here.
That's
it's like coalesce, or the act of love, I guess.
Courtship first, perhaps, and then the
moment of birth.
Or at least it can be moment of birth. You can look at it that way, or a moment of perfect union between a couple, or between.
Yeah, you're right. Okay, that would be it. Yeah.
So are those two rays? Are these two galaxies or two planets, or? Because to my understanding, the plasma exists where in our reality, where there is a material, like sort of two different planets are passing with each other according to their density and strength, and they attract with each other, but not necessarily that unification happens immediately.
How about in a vacuum?
What would tend to happen a lot of times, like for example, when they send a spaceship into space, it'll you could see maybe one of these is a spaceship and one is a planet. It could come close to a planet and then go, instead of coming together here, it might go shooting off in another direction. And they actually use that, they call that a slingshot technique to actually increase the speed of the spacecraft and have it shoot off in a different direction. So that's sort of an example of that, where it's sort of flirting in that case, but not really getting together
I wanted to say something about that. When these magnetic flux line, I call them, flow through space, you know, there are all these, the way I visualize it when I read book 1 from Mr. Keshe was that these little lines are all different shape, different size, different strength, different qualities to them. And so there need to be two of alike, like similar forces, like similar to what Sandor was saying earlier. When they're similar, then they attract, they can behave together, or they can do something together. Mm-hmm. And in the law of the vacuum of space, all these fluctuation of forces are like a chaotic soup. It's everywhere all at once, and it disappears and blink in space. And so it's everywhere. These little lines of forces are everywhere.
Yes, so true. But eventually, every single interaction is going to balance itself. When it comes to,
like we see.
Yeah. Therefore, that chaos actually means is kind of a galactic balance within itself, and it's just trying to when you try to look at it from far away from it, from its totality, where in the end it's all going to be balanced itself. It should, because every single thing, according to this video, to my understanding, yeah.
Well, it's like a dynamic balance, yeah. I don't know if there's I mean, if you look at this as being maybe a creation of an atom, and so it ends up as a proton, or you know, maybe this is a hydrogen atom in itself, for example, and it's out in space, and maybe the fields of that atom that's was created are extending out into, you know, a cubic meter of space, as Mr. Keshe has explained before. And I think that was in one of the very first workshops we did from the plasma reactor group when we went to the, what was it, the public teaching workshop series, the original 10 series there. Mm-hmm. He explained to us how even one hydrogen, the field of even one singular hydrogen atom could extend out a cubic meter into space in a vacuum condition. And because there's more than one hydrogen atom in your average cubic meter of space everywhere in space, apparently, then apparently all these hydrogen atoms are in connection with each other, which is pretty mind-blowing if you think about it, even in the voidness of space. So you bump one, you're bumping them all. So be careful what you bump into in space. They'll feel it at the other end of the universe.
Isn't that amazing? And there's
it's like, you know, if you could train hydrogen atoms to be drones and, you know, record all information, which perhaps they do, then it's everywhere in the universe, all recording itself. As Nassim Haramein. Thank you, Key. I can never get that one right.
Nassim Haramein.
Excuse me.
From Resonance Project, I think.
Yeah, as he said recently, that each proton, each hydrogen atom, say we're looking at one now, for example, then each of these has a universe inside of it. So it's like we're looking at an entire galaxy inside that atom. And if we were to amplify it and look in and go closer and closer and closer, it would suddenly open up and we'd see it's full of stars, in, full of tiny fields and galaxies and stars and so on inside. And each one of these hydrogen atoms are individualized. They are different than the other ones. Each one's different than the one next to it in its cubic meter, or in the case of water or whatever, there's quadrillion, billion, zillions of them in each cubic meter. So lots of hydrogens in that case. But in, say, in space, that, you know, the fields are reaching out and they're actually a whole world inside of that field, and it does contain information because each one is unique to its position in the universe. So therefore its local conditions are always a little different than the one beside it. So I never thought of each hydrogen atom or each atom of any element as far as each element itself. I never thought of them actually being so individual. You always think of them, they're supposed to be the basic building blocks of the universe, and every building block's the same, right? No, even as a kid, you know, some building blocks have chips on them, and they're no fun to use because, you know, you want the nice painted one, not the one that's all worn out with chips on it and stuff. And every building block's a little different. You talk to a bricklayer, and you think every brick is exactly the same. No, they have to accommodate each.
But then they use them for different purposes too. So they accommodate. They use the little square one for corners and for above the windows, and
true.
They do things differently,
but even the ones that look the same won't have exactly the same weight and dimensions and so on. So we look at protons like maybe the way we look at ants when we're a kid, where we think every single ant's the same and they all look the same. They're just a bunch of ants. But if you look at the ant thing really carefully, you're down at their level, and you study them. And I was on the deck the other day and watching the ants and studying them. And, you know, some of them are really super industrious. They're going from point A to point B. They're going along these long planks of the deck like they're on a drag race, right? Away they go. And there's other ones that are wandering about. And there's some of them have their thing where they have to drag something that's twice as big as they are. And they struggle with it for long minutes trying to go all the long length of this deck for whatever reason. They seem to have no, you know, purpose in what they're doing. Sometimes they drag it one way and then they spend a few minutes dragging it exactly the opposite way. You know, going, that's a stupid thing to do. You're just stupid ants. But he's got some reason for what he's doing. If you watch long enough, if I was there all day, I'd probably figure out, oh, that's why he's doing that. He ran into something that didn't smell right, or, you know, whatever, and maybe his poor little ant antenna got confused and didn't know which direction to go or something. But there's the more we study things, the closer and closer we zero in on them with our attention, then it unfolds into more and more worlds to look at.
Definitely.
They didn't even know about the nanomaterials world really until the last 10 to 20 years, when it's been better and better equipment to focus and look at with these electron microscopes and different types of equipment to look in on the nano level and start to understand there's different processes that go on than in the usual physics and biology, and even the atomic level. They skipped the level and forgot about that there is a nano in between atomic and the macro levels. And now all of a sudden it's turned into multi-billion, hundreds of billions of dollar industry, and all the top countries in the world are very much involved in the nanotechnology business.
Definitely. When you look at this model as a totality, when I think about that, if it's a whatever it is, as a planet or a galaxy, it has its own strength and capability. We see these lines as a model. It would be has its own sort of division and has its own. It will have its own individual appearance that signifies to me that every bit of this model will have its own understanding and intelligence. It's like an intelligent being. When we think about the intelligence, we shouldn't really try to understand from our perspective. It has its own understanding, and it has its own capability to be able to match and balance itself from the gravitational and magnetical view of it. And it was really beautiful. Thank you, Rick, for sharing that, because I'm kind of hooked up with these animations and looking at it and sharing it. Yeah, it gives me the idea of an individual person when I look at it. And
well, this video it's iconic in a way. It's very archetypical, you might say, and it somehow there was a group of us that sort of worked on this video to get the ideas out and to wrestle with it in our minds. How should when these fields come together, like Mr. Keshe, explains in his books and so on, and others talk about as well. How can we visually represent that it works on many different levels, so that's not just a macro level or micro level, or that if it's truly a fundamental principle, then it should apply to multiple dimensions, and it should apply to multiple aspects of the universe. So that means when we look at a galaxy being formed, like you're just talking about, and I was mentioning, and each proton is different and so on. Well, each galaxy is different. That's for sure. Look at the millions of pictures, literally, and probably in the billions now, that they've taken of galaxies out in the universe. And there's many hundreds of billions of galaxies, and they certainly haven't counted them all yet. They haven't found two that are the same, that's for sure. But at the same time, as Guy mentioned to me earlier, we find, and that if you look at the current science that they're just revealing in the last little while, that actually most stars, or what we call suns, or our sun, were formed from a duality, not a single thing. They were actually what do you call that? Dual star?
Yeah, binary system.
Binary star.
80% of the suns are estimated. The estimation of NASA, I think the number that came out from them was that 80% of suns out there
absolutely
are binary systems.
Now, this is pretty big, and that's sort of like what we're just looking at, the combination of those. I go back there, you can see this combination. This is a binary system coming together here. These two entities are forming, and bingo, that they eventually, it looks like one to us, because we see the end product of the fusion of these entities.
Yeah, I'd like to add something here.
For sure.
The animation says that two magnetic rays get combined and they form the plasma. Actually, the plasma is more complex. So these two entangled plasmatic fields, these form specifically entangled plasmatic magnetic fields, which are the building elements of the plasma. Just read the book number 1 of Mr. Keshe, The Universal Order of Creation of Matters.
Right, that was one of the basic core.
This is the start of the game only, and there are more interactions.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, this is all very basic to try to get it, just sort of a visual of this, and definitely can be expanded on. Like, for example, instead of 2 magnetic rays, what if they were 2,000 all entangled and positioning each other, and all of them forming this one large, entity eventually that explodes and becomes a total galaxy, and so on. We're talking about huge forces that could be working in the universe that it's hard to even get our heads around what that means really on our level.
Yeah, so these magnetic rays usually come in packs of fields of different strengths, and when 2 or 3 or more such a packs get together, then the interesting interplay comes about it.
Okay, that's a really good point. Let me stop you just briefly. Hold your thought there, Sandor, because you mentioned when 2 or more, like you mentioned, they're in packs here, and you mentioned when 2 or more come together, and if you were to think in Bible terms, if you add the words "in my name," right, and we talk about love, well, this is like the original love of the Christ consciousness, I think of, when 2 or more of these entities are coming together in the name of love, you could say, then this fusion takes place, which creates that plasma, which has its own external magnetic fields and its own environment or atmosphere that it creates, you might say. And in case of Earth, it's more actuality than theoretical, let's say.
So this beautiful animation, it's very great as a first, as a first illustration of a picture book for the lower classes or for first class, first grade.
Yes, true.
You remember when we learned how to write, we started to just draw lines and circles and curves and dots, and later we learned how to put them together into letters. Later we learned how to put letters into words. Later we learned how to put together words in a proper relationship in order to create understandable, clear sentences.
And then we get rid of the words and go back to animations, because one animation is worth at least 10,000 words if one picture is worth 1,000 words.
Yes,
so,
exactly. The parallel is just going from the simple toward the complex, step by step, gradient by gradient.
Yeah, my point is I like to go from the complex back to the simple, and it took us a long time to go from the complex back to the simple in this video. It was a lot of haggling and a lot of words in order to eliminate the words. But yeah, I know your point. That's the natural progression, is to go to creating more order and more, to describing and to explaining and showing and so on the situation.
Yeah, these kind of animations are very useful, and we need more like this.
Yeah, I just wanted mostly to illustrate that concept that came up, this idea of love, but put into the cosmic realm rather than the personal realm.
It's a very nice parallel.
Determining this, like using the love to be able to understand this animation is really good, because when I look at this, as you explained it, down to our minimal, like the atoms, we would see this animation and interaction, and in a totality. Well, when I think about this animation, my cat comes to my mind, because a couple of months ago I realized that my cat position itself constantly, non-stop, according to whatever I do, a minimal position. So we can carry it up to any scale and adapt it onto various scenarios, really. That's really interesting. And when you think about it, there is a creature in my house and predictions. I love him, of course. We cuddle and all that, but I'm not talking about anything scary. He just does it. It's natural. It's just can't stop it. But there are some intimate moments, and he wants to come and cuddle, and then he turns around me, and with his tail up, and then he does this anti-clockwise movement, and then he just, drops himself. But we can really nicely see in every aspect of our life this animation. It's so true. Physicality needs. We're in this duality. We need to be able to see it, and at least we have to see it rather than touch it, and that makes it all the best. Really, all makes it clear, this animation, and thank you for that. Really, I dig it. I love it. Thank you.
Yeah, I'm sure there's other examples that we could come up with as far as this universal principle in our lives or in the universe, depending on what perspective. And it's a great video to refer back to when we are thinking along those lines. So, yes. Okay, well, thanks for that. And thank you, Sandor, for the clarification on that as well. That was great.
Yeah, we have to understand that this is a basic illustration. This is not all the subject. There is more to it. So get the books of Mr. Keshe and please read them.
Definitely.
That was my point.
Yep.
And thank you for the opportunity.
Okay, let's...
Meanwhile, one small observation. During this meeting, I was browsing the notification from Facebook, and I saw somebody did exactly like I saw in other times too, that he made a CO2 kit and he used a closed top container, a closed box. How these people are expecting that carbon from the air will penetrate into a closed box? So this is I wondering. I saw also a manufacturer independent of the Keshe Foundation promoting such a video for how to make CO2 Gans, putting a top on the jar in which it has the salt waters and the plates. So still there are so many misunderstandings which need to be clarified, because people copy what they see, they improve it a little bit according to their knowledge by putting a lid, and they don't realize what they do.
Yeah, well, the lid, I guess the idea there is to keep the water from evaporating so you don't have to add it so often and so on, I suppose. But also, what about the idea of using a bubbler? Would that work with a closed system?
It has advantages and disadvantages. One of the things, if you use a bubbler, you will not get amino acids on the top because it will be continuously stirred and the amino acid will get dissolved into the water. I did that.
Right, good point. Good point, yeah. Maybe you could have a two-part container with a wall in between or something. I don't know, that wouldn't work either.
Maybe leave a little crack would be the best, or tiny little holes on the lid, that's it. Just have some sort of an exchange, but not too much as to lose all your...
I saw somebody who was bubbling directly carbon dioxide into the water. From a soda water.
Yes, right. I was going to suggest, and I had the thought earlier today, what if you had like a plastic tube that went into the water, and regularly you come over to your unit and blow into it your CO2, your personal amino acids and so on involved with it, with the water vapors and the CO2 from your breath into the water, putting your own energy and breath into it for the CO2. I mean, that's a natural, actually, except if you're creating something for someone else, do you want to use your own DNA as part of the device and so on? You might want to keep that out of the equation in certain instances. But it seems like a way of, you know, to create, especially for one's own self, for one's own health pen or whatever it is, device you're going to use, or CO2 that you're going to ingest, why not put yourself into it, literally? Because the stuff that comes out of our breath is far more than just CO2. There's oxygen that comes out, and there's nitrogen and argon and a bunch of other, there's, you know, bacteria and viruses and other debris that's off-gassing and coming out and so on. As you can tell by everybody's breath is a little bit different, and nobody has perfect breath, and if they think they do, it's because they've put every kind of pharmaceutical drugs right in their mouth that they can to eliminate so-called bad breath, you know, and they think they have perfect breath then perhaps. But no, we exude all this stuff, but at the same time, there must be some very valuable CO2 in that concoction. So, but whether we want the other stuff of our breath in there, don't know. Think about it. Think about your friends. Would you want the breath of so-and-so that they talk too close to you, it bothers you or something?
Would have to be very personal, anyway, for something very personal, that you want to have your own amino acid or your own signatures into your plasma Gans.
Mm-hmm. Like often,
I think
that inadvertently
that's a great idea.
do so.
I have tried it, but unintentionally, whether if the pipe is working or not, that was the intention. But I spit in it.
That would be different. That would be Gans's, but it wouldn't necessarily provide the CO2 that would be that we want the Gans's to pull out of the water or pull into the water to form the CO2 Gans inside the water. So, for example, maybe you could move the lid aside and breathe into it, just, you know, blow into it, put the lid back.
Oh, yeah.
And that would be enough CO2 for probably a few hours to pull out, because that would be a much higher concentration than the ordinary air, probably 10 times the concentration. Let's say if it was, what is it normally in the atmosphere, CO2, is it 2% or 0.2%? Somewhere around in that range.
I've heard.
What are we worried about? It's 2.5%
recently.
Yeah. In small amount anyway, normally. But if we breathe out, someone could look it up. It's when we breathe out, we probably breathe out, I'm guessing, maybe 25% CO2, maybe more.
Farmers are using special technology at the moment to be able to increase the CO2 in their farm, so that they double the yield. And there's technology available at the moment so that you can.
Sure, that's been pretty common. It's easy to do. It's easy to do. All you have to do is put a burning appliance inside your greenhouse, and you're giving off CO2. Normally, they would use like natural gas or propane, and that way you have a fairly clean burn that doesn't have a lot of the carbon involved with it. But it's a carbon other than the carbon in the CO2, I meant like carbon particles. And they just exhaust it into the actual greenhouse and fill it up with CO2, and you can fill it up and then allow it to be absorbed by the plants, and then allow it to dissipate again, so that you don't kill your workers that are trying to work on the plants, because a high CO2 concentration will eliminate the oxygen, make us not able to breathe, basically.
But makes plants giant, though.
Yeah, as long as they receive a more than adequate amount of the other factors for growth, such as light. They have to have enough light, and they have to have enough nutrients at the same time as the CO2, and then it'll give 20 to 30% bigger increase.
I read
in the production.
that they mimic the first condition on Earth, and that the in jars, and actually they could create giant, insects and plants in those jars just by changing.
Yeah, it's interesting, and also interesting that considering what I read just recently about Mars, and we were talking about that earlier too. The atmosphere of Mars is primarily, strangely enough, CO2. And it doesn't have a dense atmosphere as much as Earth does, but it's got an atmosphere, and it's primarily CO2. And I'm thinking, oh, that's kind of interesting. They've got the perfect environment in Mars to run a CO2 kit, to make your CO2 Gans, which would be part of your whole, what you need for your food and living environment.
We should have a factory there. Then.
Exactly. We need to have a factory on Mars. That's
a goal of the.
Do a GoFundMe.
We're gonna have to talk to that with Mr. Keshe.
Yeah, and we can get Elon Musk involved too. That'd be fine. That's his dream, is to retire on Mars. Well, he should be retiring with making Gans all over the place there. And see, he wants to change Mars. He wants to heat it up so that the water vapor evaporates and starts raining and makes it lush and so on.
Just start an ecosystem.
So part of that is you have to get rid of the CO2 in the atmosphere. So he should be using this technique of the Keshe Foundation to pull the CO2, make the Gans, use the Gans to grow with, to eat, for health, for decontamination of radiation, for everything you need in space. Virtually, you can go on and on with all the uses of these Gans, not to mention creating the reactors for actual, if you see a demonstration of that, would be nice. Tonight would be fine. Of lift created by the reactors, the Starship configuration and so on. It's like, it's a natural, this meeting of minds and materials and philosophies of Mr. Keshe and Elon Musk, I think is a must. Musk is a must. We have to get it together somehow. So I'm just putting it out there to the universe. This is going to happen sometime. We might as well get it going here. I mean, Elon Musk he's probably the top engineer on planet Earth right now, and is at the helm of what is going to become the largest corporation on planet Earth, and is now on its way to becoming the largest car manufacturing corporation on Earth. They're now position number 4, close to number 3, have just exceeded BMW, and they've already exceeded Ford and GM and so on. That's the Tesla car company.
Yeah, raise the bar.
So, yeah, I mean, but you can imagine having this engineer, Elon Musk, and his companies and his infrastructure, being the CEO of not only the Tesla car company, but also SpaceX, the top space engineering, and the only one that, or the one that's first one to deliver stuff to the International Space Station and so on, and lots of plans for going to Mars. And he's just unveiled his Mars plans recently. You can download the PDF. It's quite interesting, actually. He outlines everything and all the dollar signs on what everything costs and how to do it and his plan. But it involves fire coming out of the bottom of rockets, and I don't see that as the future of space travel.
No.
Although he's smart the way he does it, that similar to his Tesla car, which is amazing. Here we have the quickest automobile in automobile history, production car, that is, 0 to 60 miles per hour. It's like 0 to 100 kilometers per hour in 2.5 or 2.6 seconds or something. And the best sports cars in the world have trouble doing that. And, it beats the best new Hellcat car on the quarter-mile, track stock, and so on. So what's powering this thing? What's powering this amazing, powerful vehicle? Laptop batteries.
Yeah.
How could laptop batteries? You know, this is like saying yes, we have AA cell batteries powering this most powerful vehicle in the world. You think, you know, a few years ago, if someone was to tell you that, you would just laugh your head off and go, no way. I can't even get the battery connections to work in my tiny little flashlight here. It's always, you know, is it going to work this time? Oh, well, it did. Yay! You know, but sometimes, look, there it was starting to quaver there. It was, you know, so the contacts, the tiny little contacts inside where the batteries go, they're always messing up, right? So you can imagine having 6,870 or whatever the number is in the Tesla, in the large battery they have under the floor, and all these connections somehow they work, right? And he's made that work. Why has he done that? Well, because Chevron and GM decided that they would hang on to the patent for the big batteries just for themselves, and I don't even think they're using that, actually. I think they just
shelved it somewhere.
That's what they call it. They shelved it, you know. But they were trading.
I just want to add something.
One of them got cornered. Like, okay, you got to start using this patent. They sold it off to the other one, and then they said, well, you guys got to start doing alternate energy. They sold it back to the other guy. It's really shifty stuff going on there with that. But anyway, so the idea is that
using battery is a great thing, is a beautiful thing. But how it's been made and how it's been the raw material has been provided, and that's a question at the moment. It's the biggest question in our society today. All over the world, these kind of batteries are being used vastly, and how it's been provided, unknown, question mark. If you research it, you'll find it. But it's all being calculated. However many years that we have that capacity to be able to use these raw materials and use these people, it's all being calculated. No one's listening. That's another thing. I understand it. It's a beautiful thing to be able to have electric cars. I live in Idlewild. We have at least 10 Tesla cars here. All sorts of. It's like ridiculous. Really, it's beautiful to see them. But when it comes down to its core and its totality, and as you said, he's trying to use this fuel to be able to go to Mars. I don't think it's the way to really. It maybe is going to stop the petroleum, and then we'd have to move on to another source because it's limited.
Yeah, I mean, he's got some great ideas in terms of, you have a rocket that takes off, and that second stage, takes off. You got the first stage now is able to actually land back on the launch pad. And then this other stage goes up and goes to the space station, comes back down, and it's able to land and so on. And the idea of very precisely controlled and reusable space gear, sounds like a good idea, and you can make your own fuel in space the way he envisions it, and have these space filling up stations on different asteroids and different planets and whatnot. But it's old-fashioned thinking. I'm sorry to say that, Elon Musk, and I'm sure he realizes that this is very limited, and it's only a stepping stone for him. He's always looking for the next best technology to work into it and to automate, to make things cheaper and better, basically. He's looking to being able to get the ordinary person to Mars. The way his calculations are looking like, for roughly the same price as a new house or a new property, if you were to have a new mortgage, you could go to Mars for that same amount, let's say. So that puts it, sort of within reach of the ordinary person. I think houses today are out of reach for the ordinary person. And most families that are working with both people and both couples in the family and their kids and themselves working 2 or 3 jobs each are probably agreeing with me to try to keep up with mortgages and so on, with the average house price of $500,000 in the country I live in, and the average price of $1 million in the largest metropolitan centers in Canada right now. So it's a lot of house to chomp into. So why not go to Mars instead? I couldn't afford to live on Earth, so I went to Mars. You know, you get to Mars. Well, what brought you to Mars? Well, I couldn't afford to live on Earth, so I had to leave.
I say I do the next best thing. I live on a ship.
Yes.
So I'm moving towards ship mentality, living in your own little sphere, going towards the destination, you know?
It's true. And
Rick,
go ahead.
can I begin now?
Okay. Yes, you have a presentation you want to do, huh?
Okay.
Okay, sure. Let's move
Can
along here.
Can I share the screen?
Yes, go ahead.
You see my screen? You see my screen?
Yes, yes, we do. You see your application there and so on.
Do you know what Mr. Keshe wants to?
Sorry, your audio can't hear your audio now.
Do you know what Mr. Keshe wants to show you?
Did you bump your microphone or something? They can't hear the audio.
Yeah. Mr. Keshe wants to show you.
No, I still can't hear your audio. Can you fix your microphone?
Yeah.
I think it pulled out.
It's better?
Yeah, it's a little better, I think. Go ahead.
Yeah. This red one is the material.
Still a little weak.
In the material side. Everything we need a material to have something. Like a motor, like an engine, everything. We need the full fuel to make a car running, everything. We need a material. But now Mr. Keshe need us to reduce a material time by time and make the soul replace the material. This is the way.
The soul, you said, right?
Yeah, the soul. Soul.
Okay.
Yeah, the soul. And Mr. Keshe wants we to make the soul bigger and bigger, and after the material being smaller and smaller, like this way. See? And after that, we make only with our soul to go to the space, not with the material. This is the way.
That was a nice demonstration. Thank you. That was quite clever.
This is the way Mr. Keshe wants to teach us, because now we are attachment with the material too much. Everything we will have to material to help us. Now he say we have a wire of copper, we have zinc, everything. We can do everything. We don't need the motor. We don't need to fuel everything, and we're raising our soul to make with our soul everything a material too. Is right?
Yes, that's basically the idea.
Yeah.
So,
I think Mr. Keshe wants to teach us in this way, because in Europe and America, almost us live with the material. Without material, we cannot live. We have a car, we have a house, we have everything, but we need to have a fuel to make a car running, everything, electricity, everything is material. And now he teach us to reduce a material and to raise the soul. And with the soul, we can make a material. What he say?
yes, right. And the idea is that the closer you get to the soul, well, let me put my microphone on here, sorry. The closer you get to that soul level, the faster you get what you desire. In other words, it gets delivered You won't have to spend a lot of time creating the idea and making a car and all that. It'll just be there when you need it, basically.
Yeah. Because, you know, with this one, you can teach a kid easily. They see a red is not good. They must reduce them.
That's right. Yeah, that's right. It's good use of color and size at the same time to illustrate what you're saying. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. This is what I say now. Now I introduce you something better. What I now this one. You see the reactor. Your reactor you make in the same size. Now, can we make the reactor in the other side? Yes. We can make the reactor in the other side, and we have two kind of reactor. One the same wiring, and one in the opposite wiring. One in the counterclocks, and in the other one in the other side. We have two kind. With two kind, we can make a reactor. Because the reactor, we can push inside the material. Like this one, we can put them on inside here. Is right? Then this one can be reactor.
Sorry, what are you putting inside there again?
Yeah, this one you have two kind of guns. Two kind of guns. One strong inside and one not strong outside.
So this is a tube of some sort, closed tube.
So, just two tube.
Okay, got it. Thanks.
Yeah. With this one, and what I say is you make experience. I say theoretically only. Understand me? I make only theoretically. Yeah? Now.
So this is only theoretical. You haven't tried it yet.
Yeah. You have to make this one.
Ah, you're making us do all the work. Yeah.
Yeah, this one I have.
Nice pictures, though. Appreciate the pictures. Thank you.
Now we present reactor in this way, and in the middle I have coin. I have three coin. A little coin, big one, and the big one. And this reactor and this coin are connect with this one. Okay? You see, this reactor come here and he makes this coin. And he can exercise one plasma on this coin.
It is like a delta and star configuration.
Absolutely, yes, that's right.
Yeah, and you see in the middle here, I have a tube of two kind of Gans. Each one have two one double tube inside. And the middle here, I make a tube mixing all of them. What you are doing with the reactor? You see, all of this reactor take a plasma to the core, and the core make the reactor in the middle work at once. Now is to you to make this one, not me. Is right or not?
Well, it certainly looks interesting. It makes sense. There's others that have worked with coils like that, like Mark, who I don't see him here right now. He would have a comment about that. That would be more appropriate than what I can say. Anybody else? Does anybody else have something that they'd like to say about that
I mean, that
configuration?
certainly is a formation where on its own it would radiate energy. It has a significance. It's a beautiful design. I wonder if he's actually made it or it's just on the paper right now.
No, he's. This is all theoretical. He wants us to make it. He says.
Oh, okay. What I see is the middle one upright?
Yeah.
Okay, if the middle one is upright, then try with the other 3 corners to be upright as well.
Yeah.
So perhaps that would increase what I'm thinking to be able to increase. How can I increase the condition, the interaction, the plasmatic condition? That's why I came up. But all in all, it's wonderful to look at it even. Thank you.
Yeah. What I can do for you, if I have ideas, I share for you, for everybody. This is a reactor is more simple and easier to do. And they have, I have said before, we have 2 kinds. 2 kinds of reactor, one in the same way and one in the opposite way only. You have to make an experience and you give me a result of what you have done, please. Because if I do this one, I take too much time, but you have everything to do at once. It's okay. It's only my ideas.
I think you need to try some of your ideas yourself so you can experience them and then change your design on the paper and keep working with it. But I appreciate it, and we can, some people will be inspired and will be able to take this further, I'm sure.
Yeah, because I see when you make a reactor, you do too much thing. This one is more simple. and they can take 3 plasma in the same time, you see, in the middle.
Protect what? 3?
3 plasma. 3 plasma field. You see?
Oh, 3 plasma. Okay, sorry.
We connect here. The plasma field come inside, outside, in middle, inside.
Naturally. I would love to see it. It's, you know, when you finish here, when you've done it.
Yeah. You have done. I have idea. You have done. Thank you for listening. Because I have too much idea. Yes.
Thank you very much.
Now I have something to show you too.
Okay.
Because you know my ideas come in my subconscious. I say to you, I ask myself and I have answer at night when I'm sleeping. At 4 o'clock, he wake up me and we say, "Hey, you have to do this way." What I have learned from my subconscious, I share for you because I can do anything now.
That's very special. Thank you for sharing it. It's not an easy thing to share these kind of personal things.
Yeah.
That's very beautiful. Thank you so much, sir. It's very special. That's all I think. Thank you.
Yeah. I say to you, this is my subconscious teach me. I ask him, this is what we say is attraction of universal attraction. Because I thinking of the plasma, I want to make something new and something better for plasma. And I asked him, how can I do? And he asked me, only. And after, maybe in the short time, I can show you how to ask for your subconscious like me, and you can do like me. And you can involve yourself.
Well, that's actually something that is a good topic for discussion in this group, because that is something that will eventually come up and does come up from time to time is actual techniques that we can use to access some of the deeper parts of ourselves where we do have the answers already, and where we can find solutions and so on, rather than external forms such as books and words and whatnot. So maybe you want to explain a little bit about that now to sort of tease us into it.
I think what I throw, you can see, you can understand. It's easy, easier to understand.
Okay, yeah.
And now I show you one thing I have seen on the shaker of with Mr. Keshe. One guy, he show us this way. With this way, he do only of 3 points. He make with the motor of the fan of the ordinator or cooler, fan cooler. Right, 1 minute, I have to talk. This is a fan cooler, a motor of the fan cooler. He put
So you like to compare with your design and
and 1 minute I am throwing.
No rush, no rush. I was just trying to understand it.
Yeah.
Okay. So do you kind of channel while you're awake or in your dream times? How do you get this information? How do you receive? Because look, I want to touch a little bit in the like the animation we saw. There is this interaction happens, and then something else happens as a donut shape, and then we're in the zone. We're in the field of understanding and our capabilities. However we condition ourselves, however we'd like to act on it. How do you live your life so that you receive this information beautifully? And how does that happen? That's my interest.
Yeah, I can answer you otherwise.
Thank you, Alper. That was a good question. Go ahead. Yeah.
Before I know plasma, I just know plasma for 2 months. I have learned for 2 months only. But before I learned plasma, I have 8 years. I learned Buddhist. I learned about meditation, everything. Before.
Okay, so you have a background.
Yeah, I have
background, sir.
Meditation. When I have a background of meditation, I in my heart, I have a, 1 minute. I have to choose a work, a good work.
Did you say walk, sir?
I know.
Word.
Say it in French.
He's going to choose a word. Say it in French. Guy says say it in French. Guy is with me. He's French. If you want a French translation.
Sometimes, you know.
Yeah.
Dis-le en français.
Oui. Yeah. You know, on me, I have a hole on my brain. I forget too fast.
Okay, there's something in your house you were talking about, right?
Yeah. I have a compassion for the human, for the man, for everything. With this compassion, I try to do something to her, to get the healthy for everybody without drug, because the drug is very, very harmful. With the drug, we take one drug for one disease, but underground we have 7 or 10 second effect of the drug. Why I try to make something. We haven't to make drug, but we are healthy. And I read and I see the 6 element Chinese apiculture. In this time, in 6 months after I learn, I teach 6 element for the Vietnamese in 2 years. And I say after 2 years I have teach Vietnamese, I teach for everybody. Now I am realizing my dream. And after that I see a plasma. I begin to learn plasma in 2 months, and after I try to get what I can share for you, and because I can read, I can ask for my subconscious, and my subconscious answer me. This is very, like Einstein. How can he read the equation on his life? Because he had love, or he have someone in outside of the earth. We call this one is the spirit of universe. The spirit of universe, everybody can open it and take them. I am very lucky to can read the spirit of the universe, or the intelligence of the universe, because over our Earth there have too much planet have civilization is very is more. Je parle en français. Monsieur Sandor, traduit pour moi, s'il vous plaît.
Monsieur Guy, someone is better for translating.
Yeah.
Guy.
Go ahead, Guy. What did you get there?
Oui, je peux parler français, vous pouvez traduire pour moi, s'il vous plaît?
Oui, absolument.
Oui, puisque l'intelligence universelle, c'est l'intelligence des autres planètes.
Since the intelligence, universal intelligence, are on other planets.
Yeah. Ils sont écrits sur l'univers, puisqu'on peut ouvrir la porte de l'intelligence universelle pour y prendre toutes les choses.
Yeah, it's like he can open the door of the universal intelligence, and then you can get there and take what you need.
Comme Einstein.
Like Einstein.
Qu'est-ce qu'il a appris?
Oh, like Einstein, you mean?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Einstein.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Qu'est-ce qu'il a appris? Il a appris un peu de choses, mais il écrit des choses fantastiques. Que le monde, depuis ce qu'il a écrit juste maintenant, on ne peut pas résoudre tout ce qu'il a écrit.
Mm-hmm. It's like Einstein, what he wrote, some of the stuff we still haven't totally understood.
Well, this is exactly why I brought up the love word earlier with you, and why it's part of the discussion tonight is because of a letter that Einstein wrote to his daughter.
Oh.
Where he explained the greatest force in the universe.
Really? He said that? No, good. Did he say love?
And it was love, and how love could actually fit into his equation. That energy equals love times the speed of light squared.
Mm-hmm. Nice, I love that.
So he exchanged love for matter. And now I think about it, remember we were talking earlier about the matter, the gravity of the matter, as opposed to magnetical, the field, the magnetical fields, magnetical rays in our animation.
It would be expanded.
When they come together to form that, from love, that forms the matter, basically.
The gravitation.
The gravitational. So it's the love of the love between the magnetical forms the gravitational. Essentially, is the way that it sort of looks like.
Yeah,
interesting.
For me, I don't get the word love, because when you make
well, you should read the letter. You should read the letter of Einstein to his daughter. It's on my Facebook page from yesterday. I put in the link, and you'll find it's a beautiful letter, and he explains that about how that is the connecting force of the universe, and that it's important between beings, and that because of his love for his daughter, that showed him about that force of the universe, and he was so grateful to his daughter because of that, and so on.
Because,
go ahead.
Because the word love, you have a subject and a complement. I love someone. It's one to other, and the compassion for everything and unconditional.
That's the kind of love that's what we're talking about here.
So we can say unconditional love.
The love between those rays is unconditional. They're totally in full fusion with each other, right?
But in the old days, we used to say charity.
No, charity, compassion.
Compassion, charity, love, all expressed basically, in my view, about the same thing.
But it's the same thing. But when
there's slight difference, you're right. There's slight difference.
He's talking about from the Buddhist perspective.
No, not about Buddhist. In this, I'm saying with English word. Because English word, when I love someone.
No, I mean the word compassion, not the word love.
Compassion is the best word for
that's more from the Buddhist tradition, as opposed to charity. Charity is more from the Christian tradition. Whereas it might be tolerance in the Islam peace and tolerance.
I did a search once in one of the best Britannica dictionary, and they all link it. Basically, the three of them are. And there's a very long paragraph about what love is, the meaning, and they bring the word compassion in it so many times, and charity in it so many times, and, that eventually you get to the point that, they're all intermingled words that, is there a real definition? Words are very misleading. As long as we get the gist of it, I remember when I had that discussions in my own presentation, I was talking about love, and I was saying that you can love your chocolate bar, and I can love my wife, and I can love my daughter, and it's a different type of love, but it's certainly way more than sexual at this point. And then I would be, and we can actually gauge the intensity or that expression of liking something by if we're willing to die for it. Eventually, we love something so much that we're willing to die for it. And actually, the greatest love that we heard is the one that would be willing to die for all of us. This is the love of the masters. And basically, my view is that there's intensity to this. And then maybe there's a higher intensity, but it's all from within the heart. And it should be like a field, maybe a plasma field that is so bright and powerful at this point, instead of being very weak and I love my chocolate bar, you know.
Right.
So to me, it's a question of intensity of the heart, intensity of the mind, and intensity in heart and mind in action. And I know Buddha was talking about the 3 jewels of Buddha, which was compassion, wisdom, and power. And these anyway are, you know, sorry.
Because Buddha don't say about 3 jewels. 3 jewels is from the human. Because 3 jewels we have about our soul first, yin and yang, second one, and the material is the third one. With 3, if we can balance or equal our soul, our yin and yang, and your material in our body, we have a disease only. And we we upgrade the
love is only is the interaction itself. We call it love, is the interaction purity itself. It's not the discharge we're talking about, compassion or power or anything else. Love is the interaction itself. What makes a love powerful is the strength of both parts. Third part, fourth part, it's all already happening in the galaxy. That's what we're talking about. It's the interaction itself. It's a word, we always use it. It means it labeled as if it's something, but it's the strength of the interaction determines how beautiful you're pronouncing love to your friend. Okay, it's already discharged. It's the interaction is the what we're talking about here.
1 minute.
So, go ahead.
Let me finish what I want to say, and we can come back with love. Now, this is the motto of the cooler fan. He have put 3 guns with a little sticker, like gum or something. He lets the cooler stir. This is the 1 reactor, but he forget he have only 3 on the bottom. If he put one plastic tube on the middle here, and he put on the top of the tube 1 sticker with again combination of 3 of these guns, he make a very good reactor. If I try like this one, One minute.
Okay, explain to us more what's happening here.
I want to.
It can be in French if you need to.
because I missing the third one where I don't know. Maybe here. Oh yes, here. You see, if he put on the fan cooler the 3 point of Gans, and he put one stick on the middle, and he put against of the combination mixing of 3 Gans, he have a very good reactor. He forget to put this one. He present for Mr. Sheikh, Mr. Keshe, he make only this one. If he stick one tube and he put one Gans mixing here, mixing Gans here, he have a one very good reactor, mini reactor, very nice.
Okay, it makes it more like the Starship configuration of the 4 reactors, and you figure it's a free plasma in the center, correct? Yeah. Is that what you have in mind there?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Because he only make only these 3 parts. He forgot to make a middle to have a pyramid side. Okay.
Well, it depends. Yeah, it depends a bit on what your intention is and what you want to end up with, I suppose. But definitely, this is the way to create more of a 3-dimensional field rather than a flat effect of the.
Yeah.
If you were to imagine the free plasma in the middle, then it would be in the middle of those 3 on the bottom without the one on the top, which changes everything. And
yes, everything. It's stronger. Enough for the day. What one more thing.
Okay.
I have 2 more things to say to you today.
Okay.
Yeah. You know, I have do something. When you make a nano coat copper, if you can make a nano coat, a part of nano coat like this one, I make a because like copper here. When you make a nano coat,
Hey Rick, I just wanted to talk about a little bit more about the love concept, and then I'm going to go, if you don't mind.
Yeah.
And sure. Let's Alper speak for a minute here while you're constructing your nano layers there. And okay, go ahead, Alper.
Thank you. As I was saying quickly, the love means the interaction itself, the purity of it.
Yeah.
And for instance, just to give a better example to it, you're on the street, you're seeing someone approaching to you and asking an address.
Yeah.
You have 2 choices. You can smile and give that person the strength of your intention, and then give the good address, give the proper information, and then walk away, or you make that person's day really terrible. You have both choices. We're talking about the interaction, the purity itself, that you have that choice at that very moment, that you can pump it up, strengthen your intention with the interaction itself. You'll make that person's day much better. Isn't that love? We're talking about love as a concept. Is
Well,
that not
yeah,
enough?
that's right. There's another great example that we were talking about with Guy earlier. That you say you're in a restaurant or something, and this tough guy bumps into you, and he's drunk and he's like, ready to pick a fight, basically. Well, how do you respond? Well, that's right. We have an option or a choice at that moment. And I was presenting Guy with this scenario. What would he do? And I sort of bumped into him like I was drunk and belligerent, and like, but I know Guy, and I know how he would respond, and I was trying to provoke this of him.
I would have tried to bring some joke or to be funny about it.
That's right. I knew that he would initially try to disable the situation, or what do you call it? Like bring it, elevate it essentially by humor, and that is one way that the universe responds, or one way we have that option to have a better outcome, let's say, than having that resistance of belligerence back or aggression back, which usually with tough guys, that means there's going to be a fight or there's going to be a confrontation, right?
Rick?
So, okay.
Can you give me 1 minute?
Yeah, we just need, Alper just wanted to say that, and I think is that all you wanted to say, Alper? That's pretty much it.
Well, thank you. That's all I want to say. And you supported.
That was great.
Well,
thank you.
So much.
Thank you. Okay, let's go. Go ahead.
This is a copper. This is a nano of the copper. If I take out the nano from the copper, every nano is 1 sun. If I can put all the nano in one side, and I take them and I put them all together, and I put the water if I put the water, go through the nano, what happens?
Well, it could either purify the water, or it could make the water very small clusters instead of big clusters of water.
Because I can isolate the nano and I put on one tube and let the water go through all of the nano. Because I take out the nano and I put on one tube, and I let the water go through this nano. The water become nano. It's become stronger, I think. Because
how do you keep the nano from going through the tube? How do you keep it from mixing with the water and going out?
Yeah, because this nano, before it was sticking on the tube, I can take out them and I put them isolate on one tube, and I let the water go through the nano. What is this water? This water become stronger or not? This is one thing. If you play with the nano coating, is one thing, and now you take out the nano and you take them all together and you make the water go through.
Well, they use the nanomaterials to decontaminate, take radiation out of water and to decontaminate. That's not the Gans I'm talking about. We're talking about the nano from the copper, right?
Yeah, so, blue one is the nano of copper.
Yeah, right. Yep, that'll work for decontamination for sure. I don't know about charging the water, if it works that way or not.
Because, when you have a wire of copper or plate of copper, is very inconvenient. You have to have a place, you have to isolate and everything. If you can isolate only the nano of the copper, you put them all together and you put the water go through them, and you can make the water of Gans at once. Easier. I don't know. What is only my ideas. We have to make experience.
You could use copper scrubby pad is similar. You have a lot of surface area. One of those.
Yeah, that should be easy for you to do at home.
Yeah, at home.
Yeah, you should try some of these experiments and report back to us in detail with your drawings, and that would be terrific. Or find someone locally that can build the things for you when you think of them, so that you can add on to it and change things as soon as you think of it. You know, when you wake up in the next morning, you have an idea.
Yeah, I have too much idea. Yeah.
Well, that's what I'm saying. You need to have a lab or somewhere where you give the idea to someone who can make the things. Yeah. And this is, you know, simple to make for people that are used to this technology. So you could transfer your idea to them and then go back and dream again, come up with a different, a new solution the next day. No, I mean, in the, when you wake up and you put it to your subconscious tells you the answer in the morning usually or whenever. And that way you progress each day with your experiment. You build on what you did the day before, and you can control it with somebody who gets enthusiastic about, you know, building stuff, you know. He and I have done that kind of thing here, where one of us gets an idea and then the other person builds it or whatever, and it's fun to see those things come to life. So it'd be great if others here can build it. Yep, that's for sure. And it's also good if you can interact with someone locally to get it done for you, because no matter where you are, you will find others that are interested in this, and you'll find those that want to build things, but they don't have the plans. You've got the plans, you've got it all on right on the screen or right on your, you know, you can quickly make plans on your program here. So there's people that need plans to work off of, because they can't think of the plans. All they think about is the matter level stuff, and they want to start bending wire and getting right down to it and doing it, right? That's the difference. So some people can do both, but that's pretty rare to have someone that can design, think about it, design it, engineer it, and then make it and change it and do all that all at once and market it. Then that's pretty rare to run across. But yeah, thanks for your drawings and ideas though. Did you have more? Was there one more, or was that it for today? I think you have one other thing.
No, I have want to say my something, you know, with my compassion for the humanity, I make everything for them, for us, for everybody, and for the other. I have a big compassion, a big enthusiasm, and a big love for everybody. That's why I come here. I come with you. I come with the Keshe. I come with humanity, everybody. I am teaching for the so in the French. So the sixth element is very interesting. You can every disease you can. Let me teach. I say in French is better. Tous les maladies peuvent être guéries sans médicaments. Je peux vous dire. Hello.
All disease can be cured without medication.
Yeah. Avec les 6 éléments là. Si tu sais dans
with the 6 elements he was talking about.
Yeah. Puisque dans la tradition, la médecine chinoise, on a dit, si le yin et le yang est équilibré, il n'y a pas de maladie. C'est tout.
If in the Chinese tradition, they say if the yin and yang is balanced, there is no disease.
Mhm.
It's very easy. C'est très facile puisque on a équilibré. Puisqu'il y a 6 éléments, on peut équilibrer. Avant, il y a seulement 5 éléments. On ne peut pas équilibrer. Qu'est-ce qu'on doit faire? On doit ajouter si si ce n'est pas équilibré. Si on a de plus, on doit enlever. Mais maintenant, on a les 6 éléments, on n'a que jouer comme les jongleurs. On n'a qu'équilibrer. C'est une façon très, très efficace.
Mm-hmm. He was describing that it used to be 5 elements, and in 5 elements you need to compensate basically because it's not balanced. And by having six elements, like he describes, it balances out.
Yes, that's true. But on the other hand, life is dynamic and is always slightly off balance.
Yeah.
So how do you compensate for that with your balancing with the 6 elements? Because by the time you've balanced something, it's already gone out of balance, right? It's always going to be a little bit out of balance. There's no such thing as perfect balance, correct?
Mais I just say, I know what you want to say, but you know our body change anytime. But if we have balancing yin and yang, he changed, but he always balancing only.
Mm-hmm.
If the yin and yang is not balancing, when change, something is stronger, some other is less, and the yin and yang is unbalanced, and he becomes sick. Only, it's very easy. And after I show you, you have to put something, and you know.
It's very similar to looking at the pH level.
Yeah.
If your pH level is too low or too high, you're gonna get a disease.
Yeah.
You're out of balance. You would be considered out of balance.
Yeah. And after I only take a temperature of the point of acupuncture. The temperature of the point of acupuncture say to us which one is high, which one is low. Only something is too high, I have to let it down, and something too low, I have to raise it up. Only. It's like a children play with the sand. Somewhere is high is take out, and then it's low is put on. Only, you know, with the measuring the temperature of the point of acupuncture, I can do anything. I say to you, I don't need to know he have disease or he have sick or something. I don't need. I balancing or yin and yang, and the disease go up itself.
Mm-hmm. Right. Yeah, that makes sense.
In the cancer too, I say to you, in the cancer too, I have made for someone, and the cancer can go out itself, because when the yin and yang balance, the cancer cannot survive. Because the yin and yang is imbalanced, the cancer survive only.
The good thing about our technology is plasma technology. It covers the totality of it.
Yeah.
It covers every single detail within its detail, and they call it magnetical and gravitational interaction. We understand the interaction within one another, and we change its condition according to what do you want to do, and we apply to it. As simple as that. What you're telling is a great insight of the detail of the whole understanding of the Buddhism. What I am actually trying to understand with all of this understanding is the totality of it. How can I understand it more? That also means that how can I increase my strength, soul strength, and change my conditions and bring myself in a more and more joy. As we said, the love is just an interaction, and just like every interaction that comes to me, I feel it that I am, it's good, it's really good. Like every challenge is good kind of attitude at the moment. I'm so blessed, really amazing to hear this insight, so that I can really say we cover everything, and there's nothing that we haven't covered. Mr. Keshe haven't covered really, and
well, Mr. Keshe has mentioned recently that the Buddhist teachings are the closest to what he is teaching as far as religions go and so on as well.
Yeah,
it's most familiar. Some of the
I am actually within an interaction with the Zen center around this area. We have many Buddhist retreats all around Idlewild. It's just so beautiful that it's undescribable. And with an interaction, that understanding of the Buddhism more, and what it tells you is totally everything is applicable. Simple as that, really. I mean, I don't want to go into because Buddhism brings it up to a little bit drama and a poetic, little bit more poetic, and then you move into this meditative, poetic aura. But our understanding is just that, like that's that, and it applies to it, and that's what pleases me, and it's really nice. Thank you.
Yeah, Alper, can I ask you something? You
yes,
know,
please.
we too much people misunderstanding Buddhist. Buddhist is not a religion. Buddha is the man living in the earth, and he become Buddha only. He say, I am not a god. In the Buddhist, in the Catholic, say the Buddhist is a atheist. No God. We have no God, you know.
Yes.
The Buddhist is a art of living, you know. We live with the ethic.
That's true, sir. That's true. I mean, I know many examples within this understanding that how the person is really feeling when they're actually in this environment, Buddhism, and I don't want to label it. It's unbelievably amazing to be able to interact, feel, and understand and talk about it with a real monk, real teacher, which I have had a chance to do that, such as yourself. It's just amazing. Very close to plasma, but plasma I can be super not dramatic and say that's that, and that's what I understand.
Yeah, and you know, I know your feeling, because you know only about Zen. Buddhist, Zen is not Buddhist. It's one part of Buddhist. They go on the wrong way, not a wrong way, but not a right way, because you know Buddha say, I teach you only one thing. One thing is you liberate yourself.
Yeah.
And
perfect.
then they make too much thing. You have to learn Buddha. And Buddha say, one thing is you have to look at yourself and enter in yourself and recognize yourself, and you can see yourself.
That's what our conditioning period was. That that's perfect.
It's
all
purify yourself. No, Buddhist is not a religion. Now in the world, they have one kind of Buddhist is very useful for everybody. It's the Goenka. If you can go to the Buddhist from Goenka, every monk go in, Catholic go into, and the Muslim go to is a center teach you to meditation only. They don't say about Buddhist, nothing. Is a meditation is a way Buddha show us to purify our mind.
Yeah.
You know, if you have a condition, you go to Goenka. I ask for everybody. If you have
Amazing.
condition, you go to Goenka, and you know the Buddhist is nothing. Is something for everybody. Is a
It's the same thing we're talking about, aren't we? It's
yeah.
so beautiful.
Yeah.
Understanding is that's why you're so close to this understanding. Foundations, technology is bringing to really close to you. It's there, out there. That's why you're just putting yourself out there and explaining every single thing. You don't have to prove anything. You're already so
you have
amazing.
You recognize it. It's a common recognition. You can recognize the core of the teaching. Basically, it's evident in the things that happen within the Keshe Foundation and within the core of certain teachings and at the core of most religions as well is that truth. And that truth always rings a little bell inside. And you can't deny it, whether it's in a different language or a different way, a different structure, a different religion. It doesn't matter if that bell of ring gets rung, then it's true. And we learn to pay attention to that. You can sort of use that as a direction finder.
Higher language, actually. It's beyond language. It's beyond words.
It's part of feeling and then, and knowing who you are, and that everyone has that root core center. Free plasma is the same. Free plasma is free plasma, basically. Yes, there are gradient levels and so on, but still it's deep down it's the same. So we are like one being inside, but we have all these different manifestations outside. So it all depends on who you're talking to, I suppose, and who you are, and who you think you are. So, I mean, we could spend many, many hours with examining who are you, the question, who are you?
No, Rick, next time I can show for everybody the map of our soul. It's very easy.
Okay.
The map, you can see the map. I like this one. I am in this park. I am what I am. And if you recognize yourself, you can purify yourself. Only with this one.
Well, that's a good point. Absolutely. And that's something I'd like to get into more. Let's explore that more next time.
Yeah.
I'm a little tired for this time, perhaps. But yeah, that would be good. We could explore some concepts in this group. Like it becomes important, the relationship that we have to ourselves and to others, basically. So we're talking about what are the roots of consciousness? What are the roots of, are we conscious? Are we really awake now? Or are we just sort of talking about being awake and so on? And we can look at scales and sort of map of consciousness or map of the worlds that make up this world, the universes. Like if we consider the idea that of modern scientists that say there could be a multitude of universes right now in this moment, there's actually an infinite number of universes that are all very much the same, but they're slightly altered, slightly different. Each one's got a slight difference in them, but they're all happening at this moment. The one that we happen to be in is our particular viewpoint or perspective or slice of that universe, but it's not necessarily the objective wholeness of everything. And we can actually go to different universes And that part of ourselves that's in that universe, we can reclaim the knowledge and information from that part in another universe and bring it into our home universe to make ourselves stronger in our home universe where we normally hang out and so on. So there's a lot of things that we could work with as mental constructs, as ideas, and sort of almost mental games, you could say, to explore some of these concepts.
Yeah.
I'd like to see what you have to present about that. It'd be great.
Yeah, I agree.
Like you talked, for example, you talked about the subconscious and how would that fit into the greater map of our different levels and degrees and so on.
Eric, I have a little job for you. When you look at the woman,
other than building all these devices,
when you look at the woman, how many grams can you see on the woman?
How many what?
Gram weight you can see on the woman. How many grams?
How many grams on a woman?
Oh,
is that what you said?
Yeah, but like a woman have 60 kilo, but you cannot see all of 60 kilo. You see only few grams of the woman only. What is it?
Okay, you mean like the surface skin you're talking about? We see just only the very superficial usually, only what the light reflects. That we see. Unless you can see the inner light. We talked about Kina. We talked about this earlier too. Unless it's different. If you look into someone's eyes and you can see the inner light, then you're no longer just looking at the physicality body. The body actually fades away, and you're just looking straight in, from eye to eye, with someone else. Then it's different than just carrying on conversation and you see this form in front of you, and it's, we assume that it's always the same human that we're talking to, but there are actually different levels.
Now you see a woman, or you see only outside. And if you see an iceberg, what can you see? An iceberg.
From looking above, you mean?
Yeah. You only see the top.
Circle.
Oh.
Or
you see, and under the water you cannot see. You only see the top and the outside of the iceberg only. How many grams do you see?
Oh, like an iceberg.
Iceberg.
An iceberg. You see only the top, but the rest is hidden under. Most of the biggest part is hidden.
Outside of the iceberg only.
Yeah, that's what it means.
Yes, I can understand that.
How many grams can you see from the iceberg?
Right, like 10% or something.
No. 10% is too much. 1 million% only. You only one micron under the water, or under the surface. You only reflect the iceberg only, and the background you cannot see. All the side you cannot see, and underwater you cannot see.
Right.
Yeah. When with your eyes you can see nothing. You can see nothing. That is.
But with your mind, you can see, and we can see further than the eyes.
Yeah, but everybody when they see what you see with your eyes, not with your mind. Everybody see with your eyes, because in Occidental they say, what I see, I believe. What I don't see, I don't believe.
I'll give you a really good example of that right now. As a practical, I was thinking of this as a sort of practical test here. So I want you to tell me, I'm just trying to get this lined up properly.
Yeah.
I want you to tell me what you see now. Okay, so, you can see something going on there. And so what you know, most people might respond, what do you see? Well,
One finger.
okay, very good. Thank you. Thank you. One finger. Yes. Okay. Now, what do you see?
I see two smiling finger.
All right. Very good. Two fingers.
He's trying he's trying to touch my chin too.
Yeah, I got D in between there. Okay, now, what do we got? What do we see? Okay, what is this that we're looking at here? We might say, some might say, it's a family of fingers. Oh, they're all, oh, there's a baby finger in there. All right, this is the finger family. Well, surprise, it's not really fingers, it's a hand, in fact. It's not really a hand. It's me you're looking at. And it's not really me, it's my actual essence coming through at this moment. So if you're looking at fingers, you missed the hand, you missed me, you missed the essence, you missed everything else in the universe. And I just distracted you with thinking that fingers are your universe. And in the same way we look at individuals like they're a bunch of fingers, but we're all connected. We are all the same being. We are one being on this planet. That's the idea. In fact, one being in the universe, if we're actually connected in that way. And that love is that connecting force that to bring it all around again, that's what it comes down to. And we get distracted by division, thinking that we're all important individuals, thinking all the fingers are important, and thinking that each person is a finger when they're all part of the hand. The hand is the body, and then it goes from there into not just one body, but all these bodies are connected so that the finger is the same as another body, and then it's all interconnected. So it depends on where we place our attention, where we place our perspective. And we're able as humans, that's the amazing thing about humans, is we can decide to look at fingers and have fun on planet Earth and land here with gravity and think that we're all just individual fingers out having fun. Or we can choose to look at ourselves in a different light and know that we're part of a larger being that's becoming awake on this planet. And that's part of our job, to awaken that being, both inside of us and therefore externally at the same time. So, anyway, that's pretty deep ideas there. I thought I'd spring that on you. I was kind of planning, how can I say this idea in a way? And it's a bit of a magic trick because I distract your attention into the fingers, which is exactly what they do in advertising agencies, in TV, in media, in the radio, everywhere where there's fingers, division. You know, look to that Muslim sect, look to this Muslim sect, look to that. They're the terrorists. No, they're the terrorists. No, they're all terrorists. Let's get rid of all them. And, you know, this frenzy sort of stuff going on when, hey, we're all one hand. It's all one being, all one body. And why would these fingers want to cut off the heads of these fingers? It's not logical for a body to want to do that kind of thing. So someone's saying that these fingers are better than these fingers and causing them to fight amongst each other. All right, you guys on the left hand, I've had problems with that actually. My left hand I consider to be weaker than my right hand. So my left hand's been jealous of my right hand all my life. The right hand thinks it's superior to the left hand. And, you know, you probably have one side that you feel stronger than the other sides. You see whatever your right hand is.
I tend to think that one must have a quality more soul than the other one too, you know, and maybe one is more giving and the other one is more taking.
Yes, right.
I don't know.
Exactly. Yeah.
Greg, when you show me your finger, if I am lightning, I say this only a matter only.
Mm-hmm.
But nobody can. I lightning like this way.
You could say it's all illusion. That what are you seeing? All phenomena of matter is
Yeah, man,
illusion.
illusion.
That's a good point. That's a
Yeah,
point of
but we
the
are
some of the
human.
deeper, some of the
No, but
deeper
we
Buddhist
know. I
teachings
mean,
are
what I'm
all
saying is that if you study science, you'll know about the spectrum, and the spectrum actually spells about the 7 colors and the light spectrum, the dark, the infrared, and the ultraviolet, and then you go on, and then you discover, oh my goodness, it goes for a freaking while this way. And our senses cannot perceive these frequencies.
Exactly
and
right.
again, below, there's another. And what I mean here is that suddenly my mind can know that my eye is looking at an illusion, and my mind can perceive this. And now I can devise some instrument to actually prove the concept, and we did this already. So which reinforce even better the idea of suddenly, like the cavern, believing in the shadows, that Aristotle's or Plato story?
Shadows in the cave.
Where everybody believes in the shadow in the cave and get distracted, like your little fingers, or the distraction, or that we should all unite, or I am part of one. It's eventually maybe it's a spiritual experience that happened to you, something. But I think that a lot of people around connects with this. This is what connects people. There's an awakening worldwide, and not only
We're starting to look beyond the fingers. Like in the early days, it was all about fingers, which is kind of the tribal mentality and the family mentality, and but local structures that way. And now we're looking at it more like we have these individuals, but the individuals know that they're connected to the hand, and they're working more in concert around the world, and we have a common theme, like we're all into piece of fingers, so that all fingers get along together.
If we can cohere, if we can have cohesion.
This, not this.
That's so true, so true. Oh, so inspiring, guys. It is what it is that you're talking about, and you may be thinking that you're explaining in a wider concept, but you're really playing what you're telling. Actually, you're really telling what you want to tell, and it's all being understood. It's so good. When it comes to finger, I wonder how, even when I look at my index finger, I say my index finger move, and I move it, and I still wonder how that happens, really, that kind of interaction. And
it's actually a big question.
I'm sorry.
How?
Because, go ahead.
You can go ahead if you like. But I was just going to say, how often do we consciously move our fingers? So, we could look at that question. I mean, we could address that question for hours, literally, if we wish to. But go ahead. What was your aspect about that you wanted to finish with there? The finger moving and so on.
And that when we started from our fingers, and giving the example of the fingers gave me the inspiration of actually previous experimentations of mine that I've tried many times. That it's stupid maybe when you think about it, but when you move how do you move your finger? Like how am I supposed to? How do I give the signal, or how am I wanting to do that? I went into a deeper detail in terms of how we're actually executing this action, and that's just what it was, really. And I'm sorry. Yeah, but get it, don't you? Like, I don't get it. How do we do it? And I keep asking my simplest question, which I'm questioning all day, subconsciously, consciously. What I came to realization are physicalities, tools, are Keshe Foundation's products, like health pens, nano-coated devices, or whatever we've created, but souls tool is the body. Our hands just leave the health pen, do the action while you're, as if you have a pen in your hand. You sample the feeling. Your soul already got that. You have moved on to reality on a soul level, where we want to act and where we want to move forward. Yeah, from this reality, really. It's like, that's just why I came to a point. The body is the tool, isn't it? Like, I'm using all the health plans beautifully, and my physicality is satisfying through my physicality. My soul is understanding, but when it really come to a soul level, I understand that my hands are my tools, my mind is my tool, my heart is my tool. Everywhere where I want to go, my feet are my tool. Like, simple, isn't it? Nothing dramatic, like in the very poetic understanding of any religion. It's got nothing to do with that.
Well, someone I just read recently said something that's relevant. It goes something like, humans are made to be loved, and tools are made to be used, but we've gotten things mixed up. It was the Dalai Lama. We've gotten things mixed up in our societies, that people are getting used, and what's the other part? Tools are being loved, or devices are being loved, and people are being used. So
yeah,
we've gotten things flipped around that way.
how good is that, isn't it? It's just so valuable. I mean, just diamond, really. I don't know how.
It's true. We love our devices, but we use our friends, as true of many humans at this point. But because go ahead. Mm-hmm.
I want to answer when you say how can you move your finger?
Okay.
Yeah. First, you say how you can move your finger. My ears here on the speaker, how I can move my finger, and it's all the inter in my ear, and it's inter in my brain, and my brain begin to order to my finger to move. You see, I move my finger with your order. It's right or no?
I would say there's something else involved. There's one other thing involved, and that is the emotion, the emotion, which is maybe that's what you say would be the electrical signal, but it's more of a field. I say that emotion comes from emotion.
Why are you moving it for? Why are you moving it for towards? That's the emotion comes, and that's already been calculated before even your senses.
That precedes it.
Yes.
Precedes the motion, yeah. And normally we fall into that emotion without creating it consciously. So, we reach out. I reach out and grab the mouse and move it around, because I'm trying to do something with it, but I'm not consciously with every part of my motion thinking and feeling and sensing everything about the mouse consciously, because I don't need to. In the case of creating this little scenario, it had to be more conscious. I had to be aware of my fingers and watching. I'm trying to create a sense of that each of these are little individuals, and I'm putting life into it that way as a different conscious event, a conscious movement, let's say. And you might have someone, for example, a ballerina or someone that's a dancer. They do very conscious movements, but they repeat them to make them into a habit. But still, when they're on stage and they're in that presentation, maybe as a musician, it would be the same way. you know, you got the focus of attention of a crowd on you, especially. You got to, you know, when you get asked to play with the band recently.
Yeah,
It
it's
was like,
stressful.
whoa, it's a lot of
It's
pressure, and
a lot of
it's a
pressure.
new guitar. I'm not used to this one, and
It's nerve cracking a bit. Though.
yeah. So it's under those. Oops, I see my. Sorry, my audio was off there. I was pontificating on live stream without being heard. Sorry, you missed all the good stuff. So the secret of the universe was. No, I'm just kidding. We didn't quite get the secret of the universe there.
That's so good. Oh my God.
We'll be uploading the Zoom version, so you'll get that little mess up on live stream when the new version is uploaded. So anyways, where are we now? We are 3 hours and 48 minutes into things here.
Where's Thomas?
Wrap it up fairly soon, but
Mr. Thomas is required.
we need a drawing from Thomas, you mean?
Yes,
he's not here right now, but we don't have his lovely presence tonight, but that's okay.
Beautiful, really. It's
it's been very good.
That's all I can say. Really, it's nice.
Paul, do you have anything you'd like to say tonight? I see that you're present here. Paul from Togo. He's not unmuting, so maybe he's not right at the microphone right now.
Yeah, everybody are tired.
It's probably time, actually. So maybe we'll wrap it up for now. I'm just going to check. Yeah, it said no sound, Rick. Okay, well, we missed a little bit at the end there. That's okay. All right, I would like to wrap it up for now, I think. Then we had a really lovely presentation. Some good stuff came out, and we even got around to some deeper topics. So we'll have to bounce off that sort of thing more often here, I think, and start to investigate more of the science of consciousness, because there is a science behind it. We can learn to take advantage of this feature that we have of being able to be conscious. Okay, we'll think about that more for next week. And I think we'll have some more presentations from how do I pronounce your name again? It's Nijan? Nujan? Is that your name, Mr. Chen?
Yeah. My name?
Yeah, your name
my
again?
Name, you can say, where do you drink beer? When you drink beer, you say Chin Chin is my name.
Just Shin Chin?
Chin Chin, or you call
Chin Chin.
Yeah, Chin Chin.
You just go by your last name, like Chin Chin.
Chin Chin, yeah, it's easier to recognize.
I see.
Everybody call me Chin Chin. I say, hey, take a beer, Chin Chin. Only.
Okay, very good.
You live in Canada?
Yes.
Yes, where?
In Western Canada, Vancouver Island.
West?
Western. Mm-hmm.
Western. I am in Montreal.
Oh, okay.
Eastern.
Very good.
Whereabouts? Sorry, I missed that.
In Montreal.
Oh, Montreal. Is that where you are? You are in Montreal?
Yeah.
Oh, really? Okay. That's where I'm from originally.
Yeah. Good. And you speak French too, huh?
Of course. That's where I was born. I'm not born in Montreal. I'm born northern part, but I've been raised in Montreal.
Okay.
Yeah, I've been traveling, but now I'm at the other end of the country.
Yes.
The good end.
Yeah, I love the West Coast. I fell in love with the West Coast. I came here 3-week vacation 25 years ago.
Okay. Good.
And I stayed.
Yeah, it's a good, it's a nice part of the world here. We're very fortunate to be here. Other than we did have an earthquake yesterday, you know.
I didn't feel
4.5 or something.
Quite
big mid-island here.
Olympic Peninsula or something? Like
It's right on Vancouver Island, a kilometer down.
Wow.
Pretty shallow, actually. So things are starting to rock and roll here. I expect we'll have a few bounces by the time the fall rolls around. So we'll see. Anyway, I'm not too worried about it. Anyway, I think we'll wrap things up for now. So let's do that. I'll end the live stream. And once again, thank you, everybody, for attending this Keshe Plasma Reactor group. Really appreciate the different forms of input and all the details that we worked on tonight. It was really enlightening. Very good. Okay, so.
with love, everybody.
Thank you, Guy.
Bye bye, everybody. Good night. And
Thank
good
you.
luck.
May the plasma be with you.
Yeah, that's good.
TM.
Oh.